I have been taking every character from the Pokemon Adventures manga and seeing if they could beat a Hardcore Nuzlocke in their home region. Today, we're visiting the Hoenn region to see how Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and also the secret 4th main character Wally would perform. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy the video. I'm sure if you clicked on this video, you're probably a fan of Pokemon. Maybe played the mainline games, watched a few episodes here and there, but how familiar are you with the Pokemon manga? I used to read them a lot as a kid, and now I'm playing through each character in the series to relive their adventures. Right now, we're on Ruby, and at first, I was a little worried his team might be too weak. You see, Ruby wasn't much of a battler, instead preferring the new feature added to Hoenn, the Pokemon Contest. So aside from playing through the game as a Hardcore Nuzlocke, I also want to get a Master rank to make sure we stay true to Ruby's character. Let's see how it goes. This is my attempt at a Pokemon Emerald Hardcore Nuzlocke using Ruby's manga team. First though, we need to pick up our starter Mudkip from Professor Birch. In the manga, Ruby obtained his starter in a pretty unconventional way. He found Professor Birch being attacked by 2 MIGHTYENA, which makes more sense than a Poochyena or a Zigzagoon. After a little chase, Ruby ends up falling off a cliff, but luckily, a mysterious person saves him, and this person turns out to be Sapphire. She has like, a Tarzan getup with leaves for clothes, but without any time to breathe, the two of them are face to face with a giant Seviper. Honestly, Seviper, underrated design. They grab Professor Birch's Pokeballs to defend themselves, sending out Mudkip and Torchic to take him out. You guys will soon notice that the manga takes a lot of creative liberties compared to the games. For example, Ruby's already got 3 Pokemon before he even gets his starter. He has Nana the Poochyena, Kiki the Skitty, and Rara the Ralts, so of course, we add them to our team as well. Rara actually has a modest nature, and that's gonna come in handy later. For now, it's time to challenge Roxanne. With Mumu on our team though, I suspect that we're gonna do pretty well. I don't lead with him, instead I send out Nana. You see, although I can definitely sweep through Roxanne with Mumu's water guns, if we gain too much XP and grow to level 17, Mumu will evolve after the battle and miss his opportunity to learn Mudshot at level 16. So I led with Nana to take care of her 2 Geodudes because, let's face it, they can't really do anything. A few bites later and both of them are taken care of. Nosepass comes out, and after a few water guns, our battle is won, we level up as planned, evolve into Marshtomp, and learn Mudshot. With Roxanne defeated, we continue forward to rescue Pico from Team Aqua and sail with Mr. Briny to Dewford Town. Ruby actually had a run-in with Briny in the manga when the old man rescued him out of the ocean. There's no new encounters here, and Rara doesn't evolve into Kirlia until level 20, which is 1 level above our level cap. Nana evolves into MIGHTYENA, but come on, it's a fighting gym. I'm not sending her out. Rara's sort of our only answer to Brawly, so we better not screw this up. Brawly leaves with Machop, so I send out Rara. Confusion is a 2-shot, which lets Machop take out a huge chunk of our HP with Seismic Toss. Even though we resist his fighting attacks, the way Seismic Toss works is that it takes the user's level, in this case 16, and it will always do 16 damage to us. Taking out Machop gives us enough XP to level up, and Brawly sends out Metatype. I messed up here because I didn't check the docs, always check the docs by the way, and I switch into Nana on a Focus Punch. Even with Nana's Intimidate, that's a 150 base power, super effective attack. Pretty lucky we lived, huh? If you guys are playing Brawly's fight, you can literally stay in and use any attack to disrupt his Focus Punch. It's basically free. Don't do what I did. To correct our mistake, I switch into Mumu to tank the Focus Punch before taking him out with Water Guns. For his Makuhita, I have Rara come back in and take him out with a few confusions. We had some misplays there, but lesson learned for next time, right? Rara also evolves after the battle, so our team is looking stronger. With Brawly taken care of, we can head over to Slateport to clear out Team Aqua before heading through the routes to Mauville. Real quick though, we stopped to catch a Plusle named Poo-Poo. Shout out to Ruby, man, he didn't give Plusle a nickname, but the rest of his team has a pretty obvious nickname theme. In the manga, Ruby and Sapphire found Plusle and Minun on the abandoned ship. I don't want to use him too much cause, I mean, he's a Plusle, so no thank you. By the way, you guys want to guess how the Watson fight goes? With our third gym badge, we blitz through the routes to stop Team Magma at the top of Mount Chimney. By the way, remember this route. We're coming back here soon for something very important. Team Magma is a pushover as always, which brings us through the dangerous jagged pass to Lava Ridge Town. My favorite place in Hoenn, gotta show some love to my bathing grannies. Okay, I know earlier we swept through Watson pretty easily, but Flannery's got some tricks to stop us. Of course, Numo easily goes down, but Slugma can tank a water gun and set up a sunny day. With the sunlight up, our water type attacks now do half their original damage, which you can clearly see after Flannery heals. That's why I was so careful in the Roxanne fight, because now we can switch to Mudshot to take out Slugma. Okay, some quick math here. Water gun is 4 times effective, so at 40 base power, times 4 times 1.5 stab boost divided by 2 for the sunlight is 120 power. Mudshot is 55 base power, times 2 for the super effective, times 1.5 stab boost is 165 power. It's not enough to take out Camerupt, but it does a sizable amount. The Ugly Cow goes for an Attract, so I switch into Nana before switching back to Mumu. This shakes off the Attract so we can outspeed and take him out with a water gun. The sun's gone, so that's 240 base power now. Flannery's last Pokemon is Torkoal, who sets up a sunny day and then goes for an Attract. You know me, I like my dangerous plays, so I go for another Mudshot, which connects and takes him out, winning us the battle. Alright, you know what time it is. Time to take out my dad. He leads with Spinda, so I start with Kiki in her first major battle as a Delcatty. Normal against normal, let's see how this goes. Norman's slacking will be really difficult to break, so we need a plan. First, I lower Spinda's attack with Charm. Each time we get confused by Teeter Dance, I switch into Nana for an Intimidate before switching back to Kiki. By doing this over and over again, we can weaken Spinda's facades while Nana is immune to his Psybeams. We take him out and Norman sends out Slacking. A little early for us, but I switch into Kiki as he wastes a turn going for counter. Now, Slacking's gimmick is that he attacks for one turn and then can't move for the next. So on the turn that he can't move, we lower his attack with Charm to make him more manageable to deal with. A switch back into Nana lowers his speed again, as Slacking only goes for a Yawn. Now back to Kiki, Charm, Attract, rinse and repeat. Now because of the physical special split, Feint Attack is a special attack, but as long as we're careful, we'll be okay. Then, another pivot to Poo Poo. Yeah, that's right, I leveled her up for her support in this tough battle. We paralyze Slacking with a Thunder Wave, then start lowering his defenses with Fake Tears. I was so tempted to Encore him into counter, but I have no idea how that interaction works with the loafing turns. Then, we switch to Spark, which again, because of the physical special split, it's a special attack, and we nearly one-shot him. Slacking actually gets a facade boost from the paralysis, which I may have forgotten, oops. But we can tank it and take him out with a few sparks. Who would have thought that Poo Poo would deliver the killing blow? Norman sends out Vigoroth, so that's a Thunder Wave, then we switch into Nana for the Intimidate. Did I forget about the facade boost again? Yes, maybe. But we're saved by Mumu, who thankfully can take him out with a Mudshot. Lanoon is last, but we can finish up with Rara, who had evolved into Gardevoir on our way over. That was definitely a really fun fight. It felt like each member was chipping away at Slacking until we could finally take him out. Defeating Norman gives us Surf, so now we can get our last team members. We cross the water and continue to the Weather Institute. After defeating Team Aqua, the scientists award us with Fofo, the cast form. In the manga, Fofo used to belong to Mr. Stone, Stephen Stone's father. Ruby trained her for smart contests since she could change the weather at any moment to adapt to the situation. Also, on Route 119, we can catch Feebas. Fifi the Feebas. Man, I hate this encounter. Okay, you most likely haven't had to hunt for Feebas, so let me explain how stupid it is. You can only catch Feebas on this route. In all of Hoenn, the game that was given a 7.8 out of 10 for having too much water, this is the only place you can catch it. Okay, there's a lot of water, but you can just surf back and forth, right? Wrong. You need to fish for Feebas on each tile, because only 6 of the tiles will have Feebas, and these 6 tiles are random. And Feebas only has a 50% chance of showing up anyway, so you could just skip over the tile if you're unlucky. Well, we eventually get lucky, but that took a really long time. Hey, if you guys want to support my time wasting, feel free to leave a like so the YouTube algorithm can be kind to this video. By the way, we got extremely lucky because Rara's Modest ability from earlier, yeah, that synchronized onto Feebas. I'll explain that more when we get to Lily Cove, but for now, we've got our full team. Fifi, you stay in the box though. Alright, Winona time. I'm definitely scared of Altaria, but we've got a plan. She leads with Swablu, and I send out Rara. I try to set up a Calm Mind, but Swablu goes for a Perish Song. We can take her out, but since Tropius tanks are psychic, we gotta swap out. No one can really tank a solar beam, so Kiki's gotta take one for the team. Winona heals, and I switch into Fofo. Okay, time for the weather wars to begin. We outspeed and set up a sunny day, which lets us resist the incoming solar beam. Now that the sun is set up, we can use a super effective fire-type weather ball to take her out. Winona's next Pokemon is her Pelipper, who needs to go for her court-mandated Protect as we switch to Poo-Poo. Another Spark, and that's a one-shot. Okay, time for Altaria. No Terra Ground, right? Good. We get off a Thunder Wave, reducing Altaria's speed as we switch into Nana to lower her attack. I try to go for Paraflinch strats since the chance for a flinch from Bite stacks with the Paralysis chance. But this Altaria, man, she dodges the flinch and sets up 2 Dragon Dances. We are pretty screwed, but not screwed enough. I switch into Poo-Poo on a resisted Aerial Ace, and since we outspeed, I use Encore to force Altaria to continue using Aerial Ace. Now that we know for sure what she's gonna use, I switch into Nana for another Intimidate, then switch to Rara to outspeed and take her out with a few Psychics. A few Shockwaves dispatch Skarmory, which wins us the battle. So far, this team has been working really well together. But it's time to box you, Poo-Poo. You've been great, but since we can make our way to Lily Cove, it's time to get our Milotic. Remember this route? After we get Surf, we can pick up 6 Kelpsie Berries. With this old man, we can cook up something called Pokeblocks. Basically, the different colors represent the contest categories, and the Kelpsie Berry is the best for beauty. This old man happens to throw in a Chesto Berry, which also contributes to that. So after doing the minigame a few times, we have enough blocks to max out Fifi's beauty. Okay, in the manga, Ruby didn't really like Fifi. Since he was so into contests, this ugly, useless thing wasn't cutting it. My parents used to say something similar to me, but in a fight against Archie and Maxie, the 2 opposing leaders teamed up to beat the crap out of poor Fifi. Despite all this, Fifi's unwavering loyalty held true as she smiled at Ruby, and in that moment, Ruby realized that true beauty comes from within the heart. This moment causes Fifi to evolve into the beautiful Milotic, teaming up with Sapphire to take out Archie and Maxie. By the way, look at Tropius and Milotic together. I can't wait to use Sapphire's team. Back in our adventures, Fifi's beauty has been maxed out, so we can evolve her into Milotic. With our new team member, we clear through the Magma hideout, then the Aqua hideout, then the Rocket hideout? Oh, sorry, wrong game. With Admin Matt defeated, we can go back and challenge the gym, or we can try a contest first. Lily Cove is a contest central, and with our beautiful Fifi, I think we've got a decent shot. I'm only going for beauty cause there's no way I'm doing all that berry stuff again for all 5 categories.
It's a no for me, dog.
Okay, here's how the contests work. You need to work your way up in the ranks, so we gotta start at the normal level. The first round is general voting, and since our beauty stat is so high, we end up blowing that stat out of the water. Then it's the appeals round. The general rule is try to use moves of the category you're competing in to win hearts. So for Fifi, we're only using beauty moves. There's some other interactions, like moves can take away hearts, so Safeguard for example will protect myself while getting 2 hearts. Anyway, round 2 is a clean sweep. Poor Alec, his slack-off didn't win anything. That was a pretty good introduction to contests, but for now, we gotta continue our gym challenge. For you contest enjoyers, don't worry, we're coming back for the master rank. Alright, Tate and Liza time. Their gimmick is double battles, so I lead with Fofo and Fifi. Fofo sets up a Rain Dance to boost all her water attacks, since 3 out of 4 of their Pokemon are weak to Surf. Also, in Generation 3, Surf does not hit your allies, so a few Surfs from Fifi and our newly evolved Moo Moo later, and that's a pretty easy victory. Xatu is actually at the perfect HP where 2 Surfs perfectly brought him to the red, so Tate and Liza would waste a Hyper Potion each turn. Either way, that's badge 7 acquired. Alright, Space Center stuff, blah blah blah. We get a cool double battle with Steven, but all the battles are pretty simple. Steven gives us the HM for Dive, which lets us make it to the Seafloor Cavern. Oh, shoot, looks like Team Aqua didn't make it. The submarine imploded before it could make it to Kyogre. The remaining survivors are taking shelter inside Seafloor Cavern, but we can easily clear through them and stop Archie. Unfortunately, we are too late, and he frees Kyogre, causing the real weather wars to begin, as Groudon and Kyogre begin to battle at Sootopolis City. Story, Sky Pillar, Rayquaza comes down, and the world is saved. In the manga, their confrontation actually ends with Norman dying, in Ruby's arms. Man, that is messed up. Well, now that the day is saved, it's time to finish our gym quest. Hoenn is basically a free win, as Rara is able to set up a substitute and start stacking Calm Minds. Shockwave, Psychic, Shockwave, and another Psychic can easily dispatch his team. Kingdra almost got away with a double team, but that's why we have Shockwave to bypass accuracy. Alright, before we take on the Elite Four, I made a promise to win the Master Rank contest. I'm gonna skip the Super and Hyper tiers since I use the same strategy. So basically, some moves are linked together for extra hearts. In our case, if I use Dive and then follow it up immediately with the Surf, we get a ton of points. You can see it here when the second move is highlighted red. With this strategy in mind, we enter our Master Contest and actually get some good opponents. We've got Electrode, Gyarados, and Pichu. This contest was pretty crazy. Electrode just straight up explodes at one point, which gets him a ton of hearts. He's locked out of attacking the next turn, but bro just blew himself up. There's kids in the audience here. When the voting starts, you can see how Rodlick's beauty was actually greater than ours, but our appeals round let us pull ahead, winning us the coveted Master Rank ribbon. Alright, time to make our way to the Elite Four. In Victory Road, we actually get jumped by Wally cause I thought this battle was at the end of the cave. It's fine though, our team is pretty strong at this point. With everything squared away, we make it to the Pokemon League and get ready to challenge the Elite Four. Sydney is first, but he's underwhelming as usual. He leads with MIGHTYENA, but Moo can take care of him with a few Surfs. Cacturne comes out next, but we've got Ice Beam for coverage, which can easily one-shot him. Shiftry comes out next, but he doesn't have any Ice-type moves. He tanks an Ice Beam, which gets the freeze, but then immediately defrosts to hit us with a Torment. We take him out, and for his incoming Crawdaunt, I switch into Fifi to take him out. Absol is last, but a single Surf does the trick. Next up is Phoebe, but Nana's got the perfect strategy. Taunt can shut down her gimmicks, forcing her to use a weak Shadow Punch. Then, we can just crunch our way through the rest of her team. A quick taunt for her Sableye can stop her double team, but we start getting a little low, so I switch into Fifi. Then, a Surf takes her out, Moomoo's Earthquake takes out Banette, and Dusclops, same deal. That's halfway through, and our team's doing a pretty good job. For Glacia, you wanna guess how we win? It's Substitute plus Calm Mind. Alright, last one up is Drake. We set up a Sunny Day for his Kingdra before tanking a Rock Tomb and switching to Ice Beam for the one-shot. Flygon comes out next, but our pivot game is strong. I switch into Nana for the Intimidate, then I switch into Fifi to tank the Flamethrower before finishing Flygon off with an Ice Beam. Altaria comes out next, and no Terra Steel, right? Good. We recover up a bit before taking him out with a single Ice Beam. Kingdra's up next, and he takes a few Ice Beams to kill, which gives him the opportunity to set up Dragon Dance. On the next turn, he paralyzes us with Body Slam, then gets the immediate para. I pivot into Nana for the Intimidate, then to Moo on a weak Surf. A single Earthquake later, and Kingdra finally goes down. Salamence is last, but I need a clean switch in. I send out Kiki, who tanks a Dragon Claw, and on the next turn, Salamence goes for a Rock Slide. And we live on 3 HP. Okay, nice job, Kiki. You can live to see another day. I switch to Nana for the Intimidate on a soft crunch, then into Rara on a critical hit Dragon Claw. We've got to outspeed and land the Psychic, and with my fingers crossed, we go for it, and we land the attack, taking out Salamence and winning us the final battle. Alright Wallace, it's time. I'm about to beat you with a Delcatty and a MIGHTYENA on my team. You know, I was doubting this team, but I really think we've got a chance to pull through. Fofo comes in and uses Thunderbolt in case Wailord tries to use Water Spout. Wailord sets up the rain instead, so we can take him out on the next turn. Ludicolo comes in, so I set up the Sun before switching to Flamethrower. He gets some health back from a Leech Seed, which means another Flamethrower can't get the 2-shot. I switch into Rara, and we can abuse the Ludicolo's Leech Seed by setting up a substitute. Since our sub blocks Leech Seed, we can safely set up Calm Mind before taking out Ludicolo with a Shockwave, bypassing all his double teams. Tentacruel, Whiscash, Gyarados, and last but not least, his Milotic. Everyone falls as we conquer Wallace and become the Hoenn champion. It's a beautiful summer morning in the Hoenn region, and Sapphire and her friend Ruby are spending the day playing outside. Between the two, Sapphire was always the polite one, wearing a pretty pink dress and trying to stay proper, while Ruby was always the rowdy one, climbing trees and getting himself dirty. The two were having fun as they usually do on these summers, without a care in the world and just enjoying each other's company. Suddenly, Sapphire hears some rustling in the leaves, and before she has time to react, a salamence pops out of the grass, startling the poor girl. The two stand there in panic, unsure of what to do, when the salamence suddenly lunges at them. Ruby immediately leaps into action, pulling Sapphire away from its gaping maw at the last second. They back up a bit as Ruby tells her to stay where it's safe, sending out his team to take on the salamence. Since they're only beginners, Ruby's team is still unevolved, but where they lack in strength, Ruby makes up for with his determination to keep Sapphire safe. Salamence swipes away Ruby's team as Ruby stares it in the eye, determined to stop this rampaging beast. Salamence charges again, and without his Pokemon there, Ruby stands in the way, taking a brutal Dragon Claw to the face. Sapphire screams in panic, but Ruby's not done. He sends Skitty to charge directly at Salamence's exposed stomach, causing the dragon to topple over defeated. Relieved that they survived the incident, Ruby turns to Sapphire, excitedly telling her that he got rid of the salamence for her, but Sapphire stares in shock. Dripping down his face was a constant stream of blood, a never-ending river of deep red pouring out from the gash caused by Salamence's claws. Sapphire gasps, attempting to form words, but can barely manage to squeeze anything out. You're scary, she says softly, before breaking down into tears. This incident marks the start of Sapphire's journey, as she vowed to never let something like this ever happen to her again. With the given nickname Conqueror, Sapphire would become a powerful Pokemon trainer, wielding a diverse team of 6, and being the first to collect all 8 badges of her region. Yeah, you heard that right. Suck it, Red, you technically didn't get the Earth badge. To make this an extra challenge, I'll be playing with Hardcore Nuzlocke rules, so if a team member faints, they're gone forever. I'll also be doing this playthrough on Alpha Sapphire instead of Emerald, and I'll explain all that later as we get into our run. First though, we need to hop out of the moving van and go rescue Professor Birch. Here, we can get the cutest Hoenn starter as our partner, Chick the Torchic. This lets Ruby choose his signature Moo, who some might say is the cuter starter, but come on. Look at Torchic scrambling back to his starting position after using Scratch. It does not get cuter than that. We take out Ruby, which marks the start of our 80-day gym challenge. In the manga, Sapphire and Ruby had a little challenge to see who could complete their goals the fastest. For Ruby, he had to win all the contest ribbons, and for Sapphire, she had to obtain all 8 gym badges. Our first badge is against Roxanne, who we have a pretty obvious type disadvantage to, so it's time to catch another team member. On Route 102, we catch a Ralts named Curly, who wasn't part of Sapphire's initial team, but was caught later on in the ORAS arc. Sapphire caught a Curlia and initially wanted to train with Ruby's Rara so they could evolve into a Gardevoir battle duo, but as they were about to evolve, she accidentally kicked up a Dawnstone, causing Curly to evolve into a Gallade instead. We can't evolve yet, but with the special attacker, we can break through Roxanne's one weakness, her poor special defense. She leads with Geodude, but Confusion is enough for the 2-shot. Geodude uses Rock Tomb, which is great because it lowered our speed as we take her out with another Confusion. When Nosepass comes out, we're slower now, so her AI is less likely to use Rock Tomb since it sees it as a speed control move. We tank her Tackle, which also procs our Oranberry as we fire back with Confusion. Roxanne starts throwing the battle, setting up Harden as we continue to use Confusion. Then, on the turn she heals, we use Growl to lower her attack before finishing her off with a few more Confusions. And with that, that's our first gym badge acquired. In the manga, Sapphire actually used a clever strategy to take on Roxanne's Nosepass. She exploited its other weakness, that Nosepass could only face north due to its magnetic pull, and tackled him from behind to take him out. And hey, while we're here, make sure you guys tackle the subscribe button from behind. What? That sounds stupid. Make sure you guys are subscribed though, that part's true. It really helps me so much, and also lets YouTube know that these videos are worth something. Anyway, back in our journey, we rescue Pico so Mr. Briny can take us to Dewford Town. Here, we first head to Granite Cave to find our next team member, an Aeron. But I'm stupid and I didn't realize that Aron is caught on a lower floor, and in the remakes, you can't access that floor without the Mach Bike. So we're going into the Brawly fight with the same team. I would be worried, but with Curly's new fairy type, we can quad resist his attacks. Brawly leads with Machop, and I send out Curly. We nearly take him out with a Confusion, and Machop proves our point by dealing 4 damage with a Karate Chop. Brawly heals, but it's completely wasted as Curly takes him out with another Confusion. Makuhita is up next, but Confusion is another 2-shot. He actually manages to knock off our Oran Berry, but another Confusion seals the deal, winning us our second gym badge. With Brawly defeated, we make our way to Granite Cave, where we find some blue-haired cave dweller living here. I think he's a Twitch streamer or something.
Now go to your corner and fucking cry.
But we give him the letter and make our way over to the next city. There's some commotion at the museum, but we're able to take out all of Team Aqua with Chick and Curly. I love using Curly's trace ability. It leads to so many fun interactions, like tracing Carvana's rough skin and actually damaging him with it. Our team can also handle Ruby's team pretty easily, as Chick takes care of Shroomish, Curly takes care of Marshtomp with our newly learned Razor Leaf, and Chick comes back out to take care of his Slugma. We arrive at Mauville City, but the first thing that we do is make a beeline for our bike. Once we get the Mach Bike, we can backtrack all the way back to Granite Cave to catch our next team member, Rono the Aron. Rono was actually one of Sapphire's first Pokemon, who she received as a gift from her father, Professor Birch. I'll be honest, I've never used Aggron in a regular playthrough, so I'm super excited to use him. His design is amazing, and the name Rono fits really well. When he got upgraded to 3D, the designers made his helmet more distinguished, and it reminds me of those samurai helmets. Sapphire calls him Rono, which always made me think of a Ronin. That's a type of samurai that didn't have a master, which is an awesome nickname for Aggron. He'll definitely be a powerhouse on our team, and I can't wait to use him in battle. With everything taken care of, it's time to take on Watson, but first we have to take on Wally. In the manga, Wally is actually a character with a really interesting team. He's got a Kecleon, Cacturne, Roselia, Flygon, Altaria, and a Magnezone. Super cool green theme going on, so let me know if you guys would like to see a playthrough featuring his team. In-game Wally though, we easily take out his Ralts with our Chick. Yeah, Wally, maybe if you want to win, don't set up a Lucky Chant on turn 1. Alright, let me show you how it's done against Watson. Wally, you watching? Watson leads with Magnemite, and I send out Rono. We get paralyzed by a Thunder Wave, but we attack through it and retaliate with a Bulldoze, bringing Magnemite down to a Sturdy. Watson heals on the next turn, so rinse and repeat. Seeing no way out, Magnemite uses Volt Switch, pivoting to Voltorb, but we get fully paralyzed. To play things safe, I switch into Chick as Voltorb only goes for a charge. Voltorb still outspeeds us as he uses another Volt Switch, but as Magnemite comes out, I set up a power-up punch on him to take him out. Voltorb comes back out, but he uses Volt Switch again, which lets Chick get a free Flame Charge on his Magneton. With the +1 attack and +1 speed, we can outspeed and sweep through the rest of Watson's team, taking out Magneton with the Flame Charge and Voltorb with the low sweep. And just like that, that's badge number 3. Before we go too far, I make a quick trek back to Slateport to catch another team member. My target is a Minun, but unfortunately, in Alpha Sapphire, you can only find Plusle as a wild encounter. I would have thought Alpha Sapphire would be the game with Minun, since, you know, it's blue. But the only way to get Minun is through a small chance that one can appear in a Plusle Horde battle. So, I know I'm changing the rules a little, but I'm gonna allow a temporary Oddish to use Sweet Scent so we can actually get these Horde battles. See, I'm naming him Sweet Scent, so you know he's only here for Sweet Scent. A few Horde battles later, and we finally get our Minun. I catch her and name her Miney, and she's actually gonna play a huge role later on in our journey. For now though, we gotta knock out some story. The Archie fight at the top of Mount Chimney can get out of hand, but luckily we came up with some pretty good strats. He leads with MIGHTYENA, and we send out Rono. MIGHTYENA loves using Swagger, which we can abuse by equipping a Persim Berry to shake off the confusion as we retaliate with an Iron Head. We take him out on the next turn, which brings out his Sharpedo. Sharpedo doesn't have any water moves, so we go for a Rock Slide to avoid the Rough Skin. That's a one-shot, and against his Golbat, we manage to dodge the confusion and land another Rock Slide, finishing him off. And now, with the Volcano events finished, we can make our way over to Lava Ridge Town for the next badge. Flannery leads with Slugma, and I send out Miney for her debut battle. This Slugma loves to set up, so we first use Thunder Wave to slow her down, then, as she sets up a light screen, we can use Encore to force her to keep using it. That gives us the perfect opportunity to switch into Chick to set up power-up punches. 2 punches take out Slugma, and Numel comes out next. I thought about continuing to set up power-up punch, but I don't want to be too greedy since Numel can be surprisingly tanky. So instead, we one-shot her with a low sweep. Last up is her Torkoal, but a few low sweeps are enough to take her out, winning us our 4th gym badge. At this point, it's time to take on Norman, but our team is looking pretty bad. Rono doesn't evolve yet, and we might not be able to handle his slacking with our unevolved Pokemon. So to prepare, I tried using Super Training because there's a chance to get a Dawnstone if you do it far enough, but we don't end up getting it. It's definitely looking tricky going into the battle, but believe it or not, we have a plan. Norman's lead slacking is more of a setup mon than a damage dealer, so I lead with Chick to start setting up power-up punches. Slacking goes for Yawn, but that's no worry. On the turn that Slacking loafs, we set up a Flame Charge, so now we're +1 attack, +1 speed. We do fall asleep to the Yawn, but a held Chesto Berry wakes us up. Then we continue setting up with Power-Up Punch, and Slacking decides to Encore us into it. Then, on the next turn, Norman heals, but our attack is really starting to snowball now. Slacking goes down, and Norman sends out Vigoroth. But, of course, with so many boosts, he gets cleanly one-shot. Then, against Norman's final Slacking, our Encore is worn off, so we switch to the stronger Low Sweep for a final one-shot, taking out the Great Ape and winning us our 5th gym badge. Alright, now that we've got Surf unlocked, we can finally get the rest of our team. I do have to catch a temporary Surf Pokemon to get the ball rolling, but look, I named him Surf, so you know he's only here for Surf. Then, to the right of Mauville, we surf our way to the other side and talk to the fisherman for a Good Rod. With our Good Rod, we can go south of Mauville to steal this fisherman's encounter, getting ourselves a Whalmer named Lori. In the manga, Sapphire was given a Wailord from her father so she could traverse the waters of Hoenn. Now, since he was so large, Sapphire let him stay in the ocean so he wouldn't be stuck in a Pokeball. Because of that, she didn't really use him in many battles, but we're definitely not going to stick with that. At this point, that Twitch streamer comes back and takes me to meet Latias, but we get ambushed by some stream snipers.
The fuck you say to me, you little shit?
We easily beat them, and we get the Latias in return. Of course, we can't use them, so they'll just be chilling in our PC box along with Sweet Scent and Surf. We continue through the routes, making our way through the tall grass to get another encounter, a Tropius named Troppy. In the manga, Sapphire got Tropius as a gift from her father so she could fly around the Hoenn region easier. I'm getting heavy Nepo baby vibes from Sapphire, but don't get me wrong, she definitely has the skills to back her up. Time for some more story at the Weather Institute, where we get insanely lucky that Sharpedo misses her Ice Fang. I had a complete brain fart there, and it nearly cost us our new team member. That's a 95% accuracy, by the way, so I can't complain later on if we get an unfortunate crit or something. Troppy also comes in handy against the rival fight immediately after, as we're able to take out Ruby's lead Shroomish with a few hits of Aerial Ace. Slugma comes out next, so we switch into Lori to take him out with the rain-boosted Surf. Finally, against his starter Moo, we switch back into Troppy on an incoming Mud Bomb. Moo is actually running Rock Slide, which can be scary, but we're able to take him out with a single Leaf Tornado, which wins us the battle. By the way, if you're a little lost why I keep calling Marshtomp Moo, you should check out my playthrough using Ruby's team in Pokemon Emerald. It'll be a similar challenge, but with the Generation 3 mechanics instead, as well as our journey to get a Master Rank in the Beauty Contest. Definitely worth a watch next if you're interested. With that shameless plug out of the way, we make our way to Fortree City, where that Twitch streamer from before shows us an invisible Pokemon on a bridge. we don't want any bridge incidents.
What a fucking...
You kiss your mother with that mouth?
So we run from the battle immediately. With our new Devon scope, we can find more Kecleon around the city, which lets us clear through the one in front of the gym and grant us access to Winona. She leads with Swellow, and I start the battle with Miney. We can outspeed and fire off a discharge, which gets an easy one-shot. Altaria comes out next, so expecting an earthquake, I switch into Troppy for the immunity. Instead, Altaria sets up a Cotton Guard, which, if I had known she was going to use that, I would have stayed in and used Thunder Wave and then Encore, but there was no point in staying in and risking an earthquake. Altaria goes for Dragon Breath, but she doesn't get the para, so we can use Whirlwind to force her out. Skarmory is dragged out, so we switch into Miney on a soft Aerial Ace. One discharge later, and Skarmory gets one shot. This baits Altaria back out, so like last time, we switch back into Troppy. Altaria actually goes for Earthquake this time, so good thing we didn't stay in. But from our last time having Troppy out against Altaria, she only used Cotton Guard, so I took the risk and double switched back into Miney. Altaria does indeed go for Cotton Guard, so we can Encore her into it, giving us the opportunity to use Thunder Wave and then Discharge. Her Encore eventually ends, but all we have to do is outspeed and use it again, locking her back into Cotton Guard. Then, a few discharges later, and Altaria is taken care of. Winona's last Pokemon is Pelipper, but a discharge one-shots her, winning us our 6th gym badge. Time to make our way to Lily Cove, and on the way there, we encounter some interesting trainers. There's a double battle here with Spinda and Slacking, and I had to do a double take because I thought this would be some skill swap contrary shenanigans, but no, it's just a regular battle. Wouldn't expect Game Freak to actually use their interesting mechanics in their own game now, would we? We also have this old lady here who, in my Omega Ruby randomizer video, got randomized to a Mega Rayquaza and killed our starter Gabite and Mega Metagross. In the base game, she only has a Pikachu, which explains the higher level. We also stop by the Safari Zone to catch our next team member, Fado the Donphan. In the manga, Sapphire caught Fado as she was helping Watson take care of the new Mauville storyline. With Fado on the team, we now have 2 physical tanks, but that shouldn't discount either of their usefulness. Upon reaching Lily Cove, Ruby challenges us again, but the battle goes basically the same. We have some new evolutions, and Fado also comes in to take care of his Magcargo with the quad effective Magnitude. We have some more story here, including heading to Mount Pyre to face off against Matt, but he only brought his Sharpedo. Rono completely walls him though, being resistant to Ice Fang and immune to Poison Fang. Team Aqua steals a submarine, so we need to storm their base to stop their plans. We have the Horde battle against the Team Aqua Grunts, which is always my favorite part of randomizers. I think in that Omega Ruby randomizer, one of the Poochyena randomized into a Mega Mewtwo Y. Editor, put a screenshot of that video here so everyone can see. Who am I kidding, man? I can't afford an editor. Matt is here again, but he still only has a Sharpedo, and we can completely wall him like before. The sub takes off, so now it's on us to chase it down. But first though, we gotta complete the gym challenge in that 80-day time frame, so we instead surf to Moss Deep City to take on the next challenge. We have some notable evolutions, including Rono into Aggron and Lori into Wailord, who I'm actually relying on for this battle. Solrock and Lunatone both have Levitate, so we gotta rely on Lori and Troppy to hit them with super effective grass and water moves. Solrock starts to use Solar Beam, but Lori starts the battle with the Surf, knocking both Pokemon into the yellow. Lunatone sets up a Calm Mind, leaving Solrock to die as Troppy connects with a Leaf Tornado. Now that the Solar Beam threat has been neutralized, we're free to take out the remaining Lunatone with a Brine, winning us a simple 7th gym badge. With our new badge, that unlocks the HM for Dive, so we make our way through the routes to catch our last team member, Relly the Relicanth. In the manga, Sapphire found Relly washed up on the land due to Groudon's intense sunlight. She took Relly under her care until he could get better and used him on her team alongside Lori, including to wake up the 3 Reggies to help in the battle against Groudon and Kyogre. Oh yeah, and since he's our last team member, I catch him in the Master Ball, cause why not? We still have the rest of the Seafloor Cavern story to take care of, and we walk in on Archie defeating Maxie in battle. I wrote here in my notes, from this angle, it looks like he's sucking him off. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna keep that. Archie challenges us to a battle, sending out MIGHTYENA as we lead with Curly. MIGHTYENA goes for a taunt on the first turn, and we start fishing for boosts from Charge Beam. We only get one, and on the next turn, MIGHTYENA goes for a takedown, but we take him out with a Draining Kiss, regaining most of our health in the process. Muck comes out next, but a +1 Psychic can easily take him out. We level up to the level cap, but I stay in as Crobat comes out. He hits us with a hard Poison Fang, but we retaliate with a Psychic to take him out. Looking back, I should have switched into Rono for the easy resist instead of risking Curly, but I was sort of on autopilot for that one. Sharpedo comes out next, so I end up floundering around trying to find a good switch in. Troppy takes too much from a crunch, but Rono takes one pretty well. A second crunch gets a crit, but we live on 4 HP. We fire back with the double edge, but just barely miss out on the kill. You might think we're about to die to recoil, but nope, it was a fake out. Rono actually has the Rockhead ability, allowing him to avoid the recoil. We do have to switch out though, so I go into our physical tank Fado. Too bad a crunch does more than half though, so I gotta switch once again into Chick. This time, we can take the crunch and fire back with the Power-Up Punch, taking out the Sharpedo and winning us the battle. That was quite the sloppy fight, but the important part is we made it out alive. Even though we defeat Archie, he still manages to awaken the Kyogre, so it's total mayhem on the surface. We've got to make our way to Sootopolis, but I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've played these games. I got a little lost, eventually finding a little place called the Secret Meadow. I guess it's a new addition to the remakes that has nothing here except some areas to build a secret base. Pretty cool, but the heavy downpour still persists and reminds us that we've got a Kyogre to stop. So after surfing around some more, we make our way to Sootopolis and prepare to enter the Cave of Origin. Okay, right off the bat, the Kyogre fight is extremely scary. I actually prepared for this fight, planning to bring Troppy to resist his Origin Pulse, but he also runs Ice Beam. With our limited team members, this could be a struggle, but I came up with a pretty good strategy. Of all the Pokemon I could have brought, I chose to bring Miney to take on the Great Whale all on his own. We get off a Thunder Wave, paralyzing Kyogre as he only sets up an Aqua Ring. I'm sure you already know what's coming, huh? One Encore later, and Kyogre is stuck setting up his own Aqua Ring. Then, abusing the Kyogre's own Permarain, we fire off a 100% accurate Thunder, dealing about 2/3 as Kyogre gets fully paralyzed. One more Thunder seals the deal, winning us what could have been a difficult battle. With the world saved, it's time to take on Wallace, which is the perfect time since our team is almost about to overlevel. Wallace leads with Love Disc, so we lead with Troppy. We get hit with an Attract, but Troppy breaks through it and... oh, never mind. He fell in love with the stupid fish. Okay, on the next turn, Love Disc lands a Sweet Kiss, confusing our poor Troppy, and with the confusion combined with the Attract, Troppy somehow breaks through and fires off a Leaf Tornado, one-shotting the Love Disc. Milotic comes out next, presumably to use Ice Beam, so we switch into Miney. We eat the Ice Beam, then we fire off a Thunder Wave to paralyze her. Milotic instead misses a Hydro Pump, so that gives us a shot to fire off a Thunder, which actually connects on the first try. We bring her all the way to the red as Milotic misses another Hydro Pump. On the next turn, Wallace heals with a Hyper Potion, but we go for another Thunder, which connects again. With Milotic missing 2 Hydros and us landing 2 Thunders, that's pretty crazy luck. I was expecting Wallace to heal at this point, so I go for a charge to boost our special defense, but Milotic instead goes for Recover. A third Thunder then takes out Milotic and Whiscash comes out. He hard counters us, so I switch into Troppy. Whiscash outspeeds and flinches us with a Zen Headbutt, but on the next turn, we dodge the flinch and take him out with a single Leaf Tornado. Celio comes out next, so the obvious Aurora Beam is pretty obvious. I switch into Lori as Celio only goes for Encore. I taught Lori Earthquake, so we have a nice strong attack to fire off as Celio barely does any damage with a body slam. We take him out, leaving Wallace's final Pokemon, which is a pathetic Seaking. 2 Earthquakes get a low roll, then a high roll, taking her out and winning us the 8th and final gym badge, thus completing our 80-day challenge. Guess we beat Ruby cause he's nowhere to be seen. We do meet Wally at the end of Victory Road, and the guy's definitely upgraded his team a bunch. It's not as cool as the manga, but he still puts up a tough fight. He leads with Altaria, but he gets taken out by a rock slide. Wally sends out Roselia next, just like in the manga, so I switch into Tropi to resist the grass attack. Roselia outspeeds us on the next turn and poisons us with Toxic, but we can take to the skies and one-shot him with the Fly. This brings out Magneton, so we switch into Fado to tank the electric attack. Magneton instead goes for Flash Cannon, and that coupled with a Tri-Attack nearly takes us out. We fire back with an Earthquake, bringing Magneton down to its 30, but at this point, we need to switch out. I go into Chick to set up a power-up punch, even Mega Evolving to get the speed boost as we take Magneton out. DELCATTY comes out next, so we continue to set up power-up punch as we one-shot her, leaving us at +2 attack and +2 speed. Finally, Wally sends out his ace, his Mega Gallade, but at this point, it's too late as a Blaze Kick gets the one-shot, winning us the battle. In return, Wally gives us a Dawnstone, and we can finally complete our last evolution, evolving Curly into Gallade. And with that, our team is finally complete as we head into the Pokemon League. This is the team we're rocking with since Miney can't exactly pull her weight in the upcoming gauntlet, and Relly's too slow to be effective. After breezing through the 8 gyms, do we have what it takes for the true final challenge of Hoenn? Let's step in and find out. First up in the Elite Four is Sydney. He specializes in dark types, leading with the MIGHTYENA, so I lead with Curly. MIGHTYENA drops our attack with Intimidate, but we immediately go for a Swords Dance to boost back to +1. MIGHTYENA actually misses his Swagger, so that gives us another chance to set up a second Swords Dance. His Swagger finally connects, but that's what I was banking on. Our held Persimberry cures our confusion, then we one-shot his MIGHTYENA with a close combat. Absol comes out next, but we continue to outspeed and one-shot him with another close combat. Shiftry is third, who actually goes for a Fake Out, but that's all part of our plan. Our Steadfast ability activates upon flinching, giving us a speed boost and allowing us to outspeed and one-shot the rest of Sydney's team, winning us an incredibly easy first battle. Next up is Phoebe, who leads with Dusclops as we lead with Curly again. I take the first turn to set up a Swords Dance, but Dusclops puts a stop to our plan by setting up Curse. We finish off the Cyclops with a Night Slash, but now we're at half health as Banette comes in. I stay in and fire off another Night Slash, which ends up being another one-shot. But as Phoebe sends out her second Banette, it's finally time for Curly to switch out. I switch into Rono, but Banette goes for a Shadow Ball, which we have to tank with our low special defense. On the next turn, we fire off a powerful Iron Head, nearly taking him out, as Banette only uses Grudge. Phoebe then heals, and a few more rounds of Iron Head eventually break through, taking him out. This brings out Sableye, but we are very safe to stay in and use Iron Head. We get flinched on the first turn, but on the second, we're able to nearly take Sableye out as Sableye retaliates with a Foul Play. One more Iron Head does a trick though, which brings out Phoebe's final Pokemon, her Dusknoir. Rono's health is getting a little low, so I switch into Fado as Dusknoir goes for Hex. It doesn't do too much, so I stay in and use Earthquake as Dusknoir fires back with an Ice Punch, which crits us, and freezes us. So yeah, we definitely gotta swap out now. Lori can easily come in and take Dusknoir out with the Waterfall, winning us the second Elite Four battle. Third up against Glacia, I'm not taking any chances. She leads with Glalie, and I send out Chick and immediately hit the Mega Evolve button. We set up a power-up punch as Glalie only sets up Hail, which could cause trouble down the line, but for now, we're sitting pretty at +2 attack and speed as Chick takes Glalie out with another power-up punch. Glacia sends out Wall Rain, so I switch to High Jump Kick, which of course knocks him out in one hit. Third up is Frostlass, which could give us trouble. If we get unlucky, Frostlass's Snow Cloak could cause us to miss our attacks, but that's why I switched Blaze Kick for Flare Blitz, since now we have a 100% accurate fire attack. Frostlass goes down to a Flare Blitz, her second Frostlass goes down to the same attack, and her last Glalie is taken out by a High Jump Kick, winning us a simple third battle using our Blaziken sweep. Is it cheap? Yeah, sure. But Sapphire did Mega Evolve her Blaziken and Gallade, so I think it's fair. Too bad we can't use Gallade until the post-game, or I would have used him too. Okay, last up is Drake, who leads with Altaria as we send out Lori. Altaria is no match for our whale as we outspeed and fire off an Ice Beam, getting the clean one-shot. Drake sends out Flygon next, but Flygon actually outspeeds us. She goes for a Boom Burst, but with our monstrous HP stat, we easily tank it and fire back with an Ice Beam to take her out. This brings out Salamence, so I switch into our physical tank Rono to absorb his incoming Dragon Rush. Salamence hits us with a Crunch, but we tank it and fire back with a Rock Slide for another clean knockout. Drake then sends out his second Flygon, and fearing an Earthquake, I switch into Troppy to dodge the attack. Flygon then misses a Supersonic as we start setting up with Growth. Side note, Supersonic in an Elite Four battle? Come on man, you can do better. Even though we've got an attack boost, Flygon outspeeds on the next turn and uses Rock Slide, which even gets a flinch. Then, on the next turn, Flygon actually lands a Supersonic, and Troppy, being the big dumb idiot he is, actually hits himself. I try to stay in and heal back with Roost, but Flygon just does too much damage. At the last second, I switch into Fado to tank the Rock Slide, as well as his follow-up Earthquake, before missing our Stone Edge. Still though, we stay persistent, tanking another Earthquake and firing back with the Stone Edge, which connects and even gets the crit, but the damage is just so awful. I switch into Lori to give him a chance, but Flygon lands a Supersonic and hits us hard with an Earthquake. We only end up hitting ourselves in confusion, so nice try Lori, but you gotta switch out. I go into Curly to eat the Earthquake, then we can outspeed and fire off a close combat, finally taking Flygon out. Last up is Drake's Kingdra, but we don't have many switch-ins. I stay in and use another close combat, but Kingdra tanks it. He only goes for Yondo, so one more attack should do it. We stay in, and Drake heals. Our close combat connects, dealing a ton of damage, but we finally fall asleep. I'm forced to switch into Chick as Kingdra hits us hard with the Surf, but we tank it and Mega Evolve, getting the boost to our stats as we fire back with an Earthquake, which is just enough to finish off Kingdra. That was an incredibly sloppy fight, but we did it. We have defeated all 4 members of the league with only the champion left. With everything ready, we step into the throne room as Steven turns to face us. He leads with Skarmory, so I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to set up with Chick. We Mega Evolve and hit him with a Power-Up Punch as Skarmory only sets up a layer of spikes. On the next turn, we continue setting up, but Skarmory goes for Toxic. We're on a timer now, so I'm happy with only +2. We go for High Jump Kick for the KO as Steven sends out Aggron. This unfortunately puts a stop to our plans as Aggron has Sturdy and could retaliate with an Earthquake for the one-shot. I pivot into Troppy to sponge the Earthquake, then into Fado on a resisted Stone Edge. Then on the next turn, Aggron outspeeds and hits us with a hard Iron Tail, but we retaliate with a Thunderfang to break the Sturdy. I was thinking to play into the Parachance, but in hindsight, I should have just gone for the Earthquake to force Steven to start healing. So on the next turn, we're forced to tank another Iron Tail, bringing us to the red, but even though we get our defense dropped, we can still fire back with an Earthquake for the KO. Steven's next Pokemon is Cradily, so it's time to switch out. I go into Rono on the Giga Drain, but it does a lot more than I was expecting. Fortunately, we can outspeed on the next turn and one-shot her with our newly learned Heavy Slam. Claydol comes out next, so we switch into Tropi to sponge another ground move. We dodge the Earth Power, but on the next turn, Claydol sets up a Light Screen, which cut the damage of our Leaf Storm in half. I know that Claydol can hardly touch us, so I use this opportunity to set up with Growth in order to offset the special attack drop from Leaf Storm. After 2 growths, we first heal back all the damage Claydol did to us with Extra Sensory, then we can fire off another Leaf Storm, finally finishing him off. Steven sends out Armaldo next, so I stay in and get some chip with Air Slash. Armaldo's X-Scissor does too much damage, so I switch into Rono to tank it. Combined with the Spikes damage, we're starting to get a little low, but a single Heavy Slam finishes off Armaldo. Now, Steven finally sends out his ace, his level 59 Metagross. Most of our team's looking pretty beat up, so it'll be a tough one to make it out with our whole team alive. Especially when Metagross threatens a Tough Claws boosted Giga Impact, we may have to play a little loosely to make it out alive. First, I stay in to use Earthquake, but Metagross outspeeds and hits us with a Meteor Mash, taking out our little Samurai. I didn't have many options here, since Metagross could have went for Zen Headbutt or even Giga Impact. At least Rono's death won't be in vain, as we switch into Curly. We've got a powerful Night Slash, but Metagross sees one option to get the kill, and he goes for it, going for Giga Impact into our little warrior. This was bound to happen sooner or later, and unfortunately, Curly got the short end of the stick, giving his life for us to be one step closer to victory. At least Metagross needs to recharge now, so that gives Chick the opportunity to come back in. And to my surprise, Chick outspeeds the Metagross, connecting with a stab super effective Flare Blitz for the one-shot. I genuinely did not expect Mega Metagross to be so frail. I thought maybe we'd do 80%, then with the speed boost, that would guarantee us to outspeed on the next turn for the KO. That means we could have done this fight without losing Curly, but without knowing how that interaction plays out, I still feel okay about how we handled that battle. And just like that, our battle is won, and our run is complete, making us the new champion of Hoenn. Here's something your average Pokemon fan won't know. The manga had some original characters that have never made an appearance outside of its panels. Of course, you guys already know my favorite character, Yellow, but in the Hoenn arc, we get introduced to a new character to represent the battle frontier, that being the gadget expert Emerald. With his leg stilts and extendo arms, Emerald is our first canonic Short King, so shout out to all the Short Kings out there. I can't relate, I'm 6'1", but shout out anyways. You guys are doing the impossible. Much like in real life, Emerald was teased a lot about his height, and that combined with losing his parents at a young age caused him to develop a complex about his height. To compensate, Emerald would gel up his hair to make him appear taller, as well as use various gadgets he learned from the Trickmaster to make up for his smaller stature, making him the perfect candidate to take on the Battle Frontier. Now, the Battle Frontier is locked until the post-game, so today, we're trying to see if Emerald can take on all 8 gym leaders and become the Hoenn champion. Then, we'll take his team into the Battle Frontier and ultimately take on the secret boss fight Steven, so stay tuned, that's all coming up. First things first though, we need to address his team. It turns out, half of Emerald's team isn't even native to Hoenn. I had to adjust some of the encounters to make sure the run was doable, and I'll explain all those decisions more as we get into our run. To start, we first need to pick up our starter Trico from Professor Birch. In the manga, Emerald didn't start with his Sceptile right away. The two met after Sceptile had already fully evolved, but Professor Birch had originally intended for Trico to be Emerald's starter Pokemon. Unfortunately, the weather events caused by Groudon and Kyogre caused his Pokeball to be swept away, and he eventually ended up in Wally's care. Wally's team was all green, so Trico fit in perfectly. They were separated later, and Trico, who had now evolved into Sceptile, ended up captured and used in the Battle Frontier as Emerald's rental Pokemon. Upon being sent out, Sceptile immediately went on a rampage, but Emerald was able to calm him with his gadgets, earning his trust as Sceptile joined the team. In our adventures, we finish rescuing Professor Birch, so we can keep our Trico and name him Noland. We also continue forward to challenge Sapphire on the next route. She's got her signature chick, but we can take her out without any issues. All the early game stuff is unchanged, including helping Wally catch Zigzagoon, talking to Scott the Woz,
Hey y'all!
and taking out the Aqua Grunt in Petalburg Woods. We do stock up on Pokeballs though, because here in Petalburg Woods, we can see our first change, that being to Sudowoodo's encounter here. In the base game, there's only one Sudowoodo in front of the Battle Frontier, at level 40. So yeah, that's not obtainable anyway, because the Battle Frontier is post-game. So I figured, since Sudowoodo is a rock trying to mimic a tree, what better location to put him in than a forest? This way, we can have a thematic home for him, as well as finally show love for Sudowoodo before his stats start to L+ ratio and fall off. I replace a Slackoth encounter here, and we get extremely lucky to catch him on the first ball. I name him Spencer, and I'm curious if you're able to guess the nickname theme. That's all our encounters before Roxanne, so I leveled up the team to the level cap. Spencer's early game moveset is pretty bad, with an inaccurate rock throw, a useless mimic, and a disappointing flail. So as Roxanne sends out Geodude, it's Nolan's time to shine with our newly learned Bullet Seed. Geodude 1 goes down to a Bullet Seed, Geodude 2 meets the same fate, but Nosepass has better bulk. She lives a 2-hit Bullet Seed, but immediately misses her Rock Tomb. Another Bullet Seed gets a 4-hit, which is just enough to take out the ugly rock, winning us our first gym badge. After the battle, Nolan evolves into Grovyle, arguably one of the coolest middle stage starter evolutions. His mark on the Pokemon franchise alongside Dusknoir is widespread, and spoilers ahead, but we may be getting a little reunion coming up, as a Dusclops, not a Dusknoir, but still, the meaning is there. For now though, we have to help out Mr. Briny before making our way over to Dewford Town. That's where we can find the next gym leader, Brawly, but I'll be completely honest, I have no idea how we're gonna beat him. Spencer's got an obvious type weakness, so I'm relying on Nolan to carry us with Bullet Seed. With no plan in place, we're gonna have a hard time breaking through Brawly's team, and you'll soon see why. Brawly leads with Machop, and I send out Nolan. Our first Bullet Seed connects for a 2-hit. Machop then responds with a Bulk Up, and now things are getting a little scary. The next Bullet Seed actually scores a 5-hit, bringing Machop down to the red as he retaliates with a Karate Chop, dealing a little under half to our HP. This was probably the worst outcome, as Brawly now heals with a Super Potion as we fire back with another Bullet Seed for another 2-hit. So yeah, I salute you attempt 1, but this is gonna be farewell. On the next turn that we could have taken out Machop, our Bullet Seed stops after 2 hits at 1 HP, allowing Machop to take us out with the final Karate Chop. Spencer comes out to revenge kill Machop, but obviously Makuhita is too strong as he takes us out with a Vital Throw. So what can we learn from this attempt? Relying on multi-hit moves is unreliable, and we need to find another solution. Did we learn that lesson? Well, not quite. Apparently, I'd rather be lucky than good, so we decided to start another attempt, but this time we'd pick up the Miracle Seed from Petalburg Woods. That will power up our Bullet Seeds, so we'd have a somewhat more consistent fight. But I'll be honest, we reset 5 more times before we got past Brawly. Why did we mess up so much? Let's start from the beginning. On attempt 2, we got Nolan back, but our nature was minus special attack, which will lower the power of our grass type moves. I decided to continue the run to see what would happen, but in Petalburg Woods, after finding Sudowoodo, we reset the run. Look, Sudowoodo's stats are pretty high at this point in the game, and that's my fault for being only level 8. On attempt 3, we did everything like normal, but this time we started the battle at a higher level. But Sudowoodo did not want to get caught, so after a few rock throws, that's another reset. I guess we got pretty lucky last time. Okay, lesson learned. Sudowoodo is a hard catch. We just got lucky on the first one. Okay. Alright, rip. On attempt 4, we went in at level 12 this time with an Oranberry, but it still goes the same as last time. Another attempt, another failed Sudowoodo. On attempt 5, we actually got Modest as our ability, probably one of the best to get, but guess who did not want to get caught again? On attempt 6, this time we got Rash as our nature, which is plus special attacks, so I'm definitely not complaining. Then, against Sudowoodo, we have a new optimization to use. Instead of using Quick Attack to lower his HP, we just start chucking balls. Since we never used an attack, Sudowoodo's Mimic fails if he tries to use it. So when the random AI chooses Mimic, it will fail and deal 0 damage. In the end, we actually end up catching him in a Premier Ball. I guess Sudowoodo's a material girl, cause it turns out all we needed was a fancy Pokeball. Against Roxanne, obviously it's an easy sweep with Noland, which lets us make our way back to Dewford. It's time to run it back against Brawly, and this time we're bringing our Miracle Seed strats. This strategy is heavily dependent on luck, and we'll soon come to find out that our luck was already low to begin with. He leads Machop, and we send out Noland. Right off the bat, Noland never fails to disappoint as he lands a 2-hit Bullet Seed, and in return, Machop sets up with the Bulk Up. We desperately need a 3 or a 4 hit, and Noland once again comes in handy with a second 2 hit. Machop goes for a Seismic Toss, and since it deals set damage, it does exactly 16 HP. Thankfully, Brawly is out of heal range, so we stay in and take him out with another Bullet Seed. Meditite comes out next, but since he can only hit us with Focus Punch, we can easily break that focus with Bullet Seed to take him out. Last up is Makuhita, and immediately Noland scores a 3-hit with Bullet Seed. Makuhita sets up a Bulk Up, and now things are getting a little scary. At this range, we need a 4 or 5 hit, or a crit to take him out on the next turn, or Makuhita could easily take us out. With all the pressure on Noland, he fires off a Bullet Seed for 1 hit, for 2 hits, and that's all we have in the tank. I don't think you even tried, man. What the hell was that? Makuhita now has an opportunity to fire back with the Vital Throw, which, after the +1 from Bulk Up, can easily take out Noland and Spencer. It was looking pretty dire, and I was starting to wonder if this battle was even doable. We do have some encounters later, and I was considering to move them around to help us out, but I felt like that would be too unfair to move, I don't know, Mr. Mime to Granite Cave. The chat was helping us by throwing out suggestions, and one idea really stuck out to me, that being Flail on Sudowoodo. If we start the battle at 1 HP, Flail would be maxed out at a whopping 200 base power, and Dewford just happens to be the location of the Silk Scarf, which would boost their attack even further since Flail is a normal type move. So the next day, we tried again for attempt 7, but this time we've got a few small changes. Since Sudowoodo was such a tough catch on our previous attempts, I decided to delay that encounter until after we beat Roxanne. Noland doesn't need any assistance to defeat her, so that lets us evolve into Grovyle for the encounter, giving us much better stats to tank any rock throws. With Spencer now having a consistent answer, we continue to Dewford to prepare for the Sudowoodo sweep. There's only one problem. In order for this strat to work, we gotta outspeed. And our Spencer only has a speed stat of 17. So we start the battle with Spencer and immediately get outsped and taken out by a Karate Chop. Well, there goes that attempt. We're not done though, we do have a consistent answer. All we have to do is grind a few speed EVs on Wild Zigzagoon and Wingull, and we should be able to outspeed his team. It takes a bit of time, but we quickly catch up on attempt 8 to run it back. And yep, it works. Boom, boom, and a final boom, and that's finally Brawly defeated. Huge shout out to Pariah Dark for recommending this strategy. I appreciate all your support and thank you for saving the run. Now we can finally make progress again as we sail to Slateport to deliver the Devon parts. Team Aqua is easily dealt with since we have Noland to take care of their Carvanas, but there is one upcoming fight that I'm dreading. On Route 110, there's a rival battle against Sapphire. I haven't mentioned her yet because her battle in Rustboro is skippable, but this one's mandatory. She's got a Wingull and Lombre, which are manageable, but her starter chick will be a huge roadblock. She's got Ember for Noland and Double Kick for Spencer, as well as Focus Energy to increase her crit chance, so this one will be a tough one to break through. She starts with Wingull as we lead with Spencer, but we unfortunately miss our Rock Throw on turn 1. Rock Throw has an accuracy of 90%, and honestly, it's pretty ridiculous how awful the accuracy of rock moves are. This lets Wingull fire off a Water Gun, which takes out a chunk of our health. We do connect with Rock Throw on the next turn, which does get a one-shot. Next up is Lombre, but Nolan can easily deal with her using Fury Cutter. Finally, out comes our worst nightmare, Chick the Combuskin. So we switch into Sudowoodo on a weak Peck. We've got a chance to deal some damage with Rock Throw as Combuskin sets up a Focus Energy, but Spencer misses a second attack. And on the next turn, Combuskin crits a double kick to take us out. If you guys are counting, that's 8 failed attempts now. I know this isn't technically an official run since we're modifying the encounters to use his team, but man, it sucks to lose that many times. Throughout the stream, we were discussing our encounters and the chat convinced me to make some changes. These changes will make our run easier and they honestly make so much sense that I'm surprised I didn't think of them sooner. Let's start with Mr. Mime. I originally placed this encounter on Route 113 since that's where you can make those glass flutes. Mr. Mime's whole gimmick, besides being a creepy clown, is making glass barriers, so I felt like this would be a fitting place to put him. Now, there's a location in Hoenn that would fit Mr. Mime much better, that even fits in with Emerald's backstory. Can you guess it? Well, Nikam and Doge had a great suggestion to place him at the Trick House, since that'd be the perfect place for him to set up his barriers. That'll make Sapphire's Combuskin much more manageable, and it makes sense thematically too. The other encounter we moved was Emerald's Snorlax. I originally placed him on Route 120 since there's another Pokemon here that blocks our path, that being the invisible Kecleon. Since Snorlax also blocks our path in Kanto, I felt like it would be fitting, but we decided a better place would be the Safari Zone, since the Hoenn Safari Zone has exclusively Kanto and Johto Pokemon, so it's almost like Snorlax got imported here. With these two changes, we booted up another attempt to try out this new map. I know we're technically testing the map at this stage, but I'll still call these attempts since we're trying to beat the game. Since it's a new map though, I'm calling this attempt 1 again, but with an asterisk. Nothing changed for the early game, so we grabbed Nolan, defeated Roxanne, caught Spencer, and grinded speed EVs before sailing to Dewford. Here, we did the same strats with Flail, and just like before, we got ourselves a nice and simple badge number 2. Onward to Slateport, and this time, we swing by the Trick House for our next encounter, Mr. Mime. I've never seen this interaction before, but apparently, if you catch a Pokemon behind a substitute, the substitute gets caught. Now, as much as it pains me to use Mr. Mime again, I'm willing to give it another shot, especially after Mimey on Crystal's team basically soloed the entire game before sacrificing himself in the last fight. With Tucker added to the team, we charge straight into battle for a rematch against our last run-ender. Sapphire sends out Wingull, and I lead with Nolan because we can't rely on Spencer's inaccurate moves anymore. But with the 5-level advantage, we can take Wingull out with a few Bullet Seeds, which baits out Combuskin. Even though he sets up a Focus Energy, we can outspeed and one-shot him with a Confusion. As usual, I've underestimated Mr. Mime's attacking potential because even though we're stuck with a weak Confusion, Tucker's special attacking potential is not bad at all. Sapphire's follow-up Lombre goes down to 2 more, which wins us the battle and lets us make progress once again. We make our way over to Mauville, and before we can take on Watson, we wipe the floor with Wally's Ralts. In another timeline, he'd be raising Nolan on his team, but here, the poor guy's stuck with his weak Ralts. Against Watson, we don't have a complete plan, but we do have a new toy. In the Mauville game corner, we can pick up the TM for Psychic, which will replace Tucker's weak Confusion and allow him to hit Watson for big damage. So after a bit of unhealthy gambling... Must be this one now, right? Must be this purple. Dang. One more. Let's just do all the Azurals. Nothing. Keep playing. Surely on this one, right? It's gotta be this one. We've played so many. We've got 2 more. Ooh, so close. We are so close. It's gotta be this one, right? It's gotta be. Just based on, like, probability. Not bad at all. We made $2. We're able to buy the TM as we get ready to take on Watson. Watson leads with Voltorb, and we send out Tucker. Voltorb can go for self-destruct, so I originally wanted to bring Substitute to play around that, but we can also just outspeed and one-shot him with a Psychic. His follow-up Electrike goes down too, but his Magneton poses a problem. We can manipulate his AI a bit by setting up Substitute on a Thunder Wave, then encoring him into Thunder Wave, but unfortunately, he resists our Psychic, so it takes 3 hits to take him out. With Watson healing over and over again, our PP is starting to get a little low, and after we take out Magneton, we have 1 attack for Psychic left. Looking back, I should have gone into this battle with a Lepa Berry, because as Manectric comes out, we'll have to switch out ourselves because there's no way Psychic can one-shot. Except right now, when we get a critical hit for the one-shot, taking out Manectric and letting us walk away scot-free. Time to make our way through the routes as we maneuver through Fiery Path, and Spencer also learns a very useful Rock Slide. There's not too much to talk about, but we do make our way through Meteor Falls with no issues. Alright, ooh, Team Aqua's here. Wait, they just leave? I thought the fight was here. Wait a minute, let me check my docs. What the heck? At Mount Chimney. Tabitha at Mount Chimney. I thought just because of the level cap, Tabitha has a level 22 Zubat. No. I'm gonna stop you right there. We were speeding up so much through the grunt battles that I didn't even realize that the Tabitha battle was right here. The Nuzlocke tracker that I use has a huge mistake because they show the Tabitha fight instead of the true boss of Mount Chimney, which is Maxie, who has a Camerupt. And to say I wasn't prepared for Maxie is an understatement, because he leads with Mightyena as we send out Spencer against who I thought was a Numel. Mightyena drops our attack with Intimidate and our accuracy with a Sand Attack, although we still deal a decent amount with Low Kick. On the next turn, Mightyena tries to flinch us with Bite, but we dodge the flinch along with our low accuracy and connect with a Rock Slide. It does less than I was expecting, so I switch into Nolan on the heal. We're not able to get the Fury Cutter train going as Mightyena spams Bite, and I completely messed up by going for a Quick Attack for the kill, which was definitely not enough for the KO. Because of this mistake, I'm forced to switch into Spencer to take him out. But this baits out Camerupt, and based on our HP, I'm not confident we can live a high roll Magnitude. Also, Magnitude hits us for double damage if we're underground, so we're backed into a corner here. I switch into Tucker, thinking maybe we can encore him into a Focus Energy, but Camerupt connects with a Magnitude, even landing a 9, taking out Tucker and ending our run. By the way, we would have survived any Magnitude 8 or lower, but unfortunately, this was just not our run. The bad docks, combined with our bad luck, was the perfect recipe for disaster. And for the record, my switch into Tucker wasn't all that bad, because I sent out Spencer to see how much Rock Slide would do, and the Camerupt went for Focus Energy. If that had happened when we switched into Tucker, we could encore him into Focus Energy as we set up a Substitute and take him out with Psychic. Oh, and also his next Magnitude rolls a 5, which we easily tank. So, no, I'm definitely not feeling salty or anything. But on the bright side, we now have a consistent way to get back to where we were. Yeah, we're on attempt 2 with an asterisk, but against Roxanne, we have Nolan and his Bullet Seeds. Against Brawly, we have Spencer with her Speed EVs and Max Power Flails. Against the Sapphire fight, we have Tucker and her Respectable Confusion. And against Watson, we forgot the Lepa Berry, so we needed to improvise by first encoring Manectric into a Thunder Wave before taking him out with Nolan. All that progress, by the way, was done in an hour, so that really shows how much we've mastered the early game. Now it's time for our actual challenge though, as we're back on Mount Chimney to try again against Maxie. This time, we actually have the right information going into the battle, so we're fully prepared for his Camerupt. When I was doing the damage calculations after that last attempt, I realized that I was totally underestimating Spencer's physical defense. So, as Maxie leads with Mightyena, I send out Nolan since his Intimidate won't affect our grass moves. Grass moves were all special attacks before the physical special split in Gen 4, so a few Miracle Seed boosted Bullet Seeds are enough to do the job. We take a few bites in return, but even after Maxie heals, we're able to outdamage Mightyena to take him out. We are brought down to red HP, so when Camerupt comes out, I switch into Spencer on the baited Ember. Then, by abusing the Ugly Cow's heavy weight against itself, we can hit a max-powered low kick for an easy 2-shot. Camerupt sets up a Focus Energy, which further solidifies that my switch into Tucker earlier was not a bad call. Another low kick deals with Camerupt, and a Rock Slide takes care of Zubat, letting us clear through this previous roadblock so we can make progress again. Right off the bat, we charge through Jagged Pass and gear up to challenge Flannery, who leads with Numel as we send out Spencer. With our powerful rock slides, we can one-shot her along with her follow-up Slugma. When Camerupt comes out, we already know how to deal with her, but a low kick is still a 2-shot, which lets her set up a Sunny Day. Even though that'll boost Torkoal's overheats, we resist them, and also Torkoal decides to go for a Body Slam instead. She gets the immediate para, and then on the next turn, Torkoal crits a Body Slam as we get fully paralyzed. It's all fine though, I never suspected this fight to be difficult as we can dodge the para hacks and take her out with another Rock Slide, winning us our 4th gym badge. There is one fight that I'm dreading though, and that's Norman in Petalburg City. Yeah, we've got the super effective coverage with low kick, but Norman's got 4 Pokemon. If this is a 4v1, we're not exactly gonna have an easy time. So as Norman leads with Spinda, I send out Tucker to try and get off a substitute on a Teeter Dance. That doesn't work as Spinda opts to use Facade, so we switch to Psychic. It's not enough for the one-shot, and now Spinda decides to use Teeter Dance. Our backup Persimberry saves us, allowing us to land another Psychic to take out our first obstacle. Norman's next Pokemon is Vigoroth, but after we fail to get a substitute up, I switch into Spencer to resist the Facade. Vigoroth switches to Feint Attack, but we can easily tank it and fire back with a low kick. Another round of trading blows, and we're able to take him out with a second low kick. It's finally time for the monster Slacking to make his debut, but we've come prepared. Instead of firing off with a powerful low kick, I waste the turn by going for Mimic. This copies nothing, but also causes Slacking to fail his counter. Then, on the turn Slacking loafs, we can safely fire off a low kick, which is looking like a 3-shot. Then, we can rinse and repeat these steps, using Mimic as Slacking tries to counter and firing off another low kick. A Citrus Berry puts him out of heal range, and on the next turn, Slacking actually goes for Yawn instead of counter. This causes us to accidentally mimic Yawn, but the real difficult part is that we're about to fall asleep on the next turn. I decide to stay in and use another low kick, which just barely misses out on the kill. Slacking loafs, but after this turn, Spencer finally falls asleep. I figured we'd be okay to stay in, and Norman starts using our sleep turns to heal with the Hyper Potion. But using our newly learned Yawn, we start putting Slacking to sleep. And while he's sleeping, I switch into Tucker to set up a substitute as we fire off Psychics to chip away at his gargantuan health. Unfortunately, Slacking wakes up, and a Facade does way too much damage, but we can still set up a sub as Slacking loafs to get in a few more Psychics. We are operating on dangerous grounds here as Tucker is only at 1 HP, so I switch back into Spencer as Norman heals again. It's a few more turns of yawning back and forth, but eventually we get the upper hand and take him out with a low kick. Against his final Lanoon, we stay in as Lanoon decides to set up a belly drum, which gives us the perfect opportunity to take him out with a low kick. I'll be honest, I was so close to switching to Nolan just to play things safe, but good thing I took the risk and stayed in because that could have gotten out of hand. With Norman defeated, that unlocks Surf, so the rest of Hoenn is open for us to explore. That's the perfect time for our next change to come into play, because to the right of Mauville, we can fish for another encounter here, a Mantine named Lucy. Unfortunately, Mantine doesn't exist in Hoenn, so I had to make these changes for our team to be usable, but Mantine will still be a great supportive member for our team. The last time I used Mantine was Tebow in Gold's team, so it'll be fun to use him in another region. That's all our encounters for now, but we have some story to clear through. By making our way through the routes, we can arrive at the Weather Institute to clear out Team Aqua. They've got water and dark types, so Nolan can deal with Carvana and Spencer can deal with Mightyena. Outside of the Weather Institute, Sapphire comes back to challenge us, but we've matured a lot since our last battle. Tucker takes care of Pelipper and Combuskin, and Nolan comes out to take care of Lombre. That's probably the last rival battle I'll mention, because after getting more encounters, her team is much more manageable. Oh, also, Scott the Woz talks to us after the battle. It's always cool to see Scott the Woz. Hey! Now, against Winona, we've got a few tools at our disposal that'll make this a fun battle. She leads with Swablu, so I start the battle with Tucker. We set up a substitute, and since Swablu's damage output is so bad, we can tank it without breaking the sub. A few turns later, and shockwaves are enough to take her out while keeping our sub intact. Winona sends out Tropius next, so we first get some damage off with Psychic, but Tropius breaks her sub with Aerial Ace. On the next turn, she opts to heal with Synthesis, so we can set up another one. With the Citrus Berry keeping us healthy, we can keep chipping away at Tropius until she finally succumbs to our attacks. This brings out Pelipper, so as Winona goes for her court-mandated Protect, we can safely set up a substitute, then Encore her into wasting Protect as we finally take the bird out with the Shockwave. Man, Encore strats are quickly becoming my favorite strat. Skarmory is up next, but another Shockwave is enough for the 2-shot. Aerial Ace breaks through our sub, so instead of using another Shockwave, I switch into Spencer to tank the next one. It's possible we got a higher damage roll, so at our current health, I'm not risking that. I'm expecting a Steel Wing, and also Skarmory's physical defense is super high, so I switch into Lucy to tank it before taking Skarmory out with the Surf. Against her final Altaria, we stay in and fire off a 4-time super effective Ice Beam, but Altaria somehow tanks it. She only sets up a Dragon Dance, and at our current health, I'm sure I can tank an Aerial Ace. Altaria gets some Aura in recovery, but on the next turn, she decides to go for another Dragon Dance, completely throwing the battle and letting us freely connect with the second Ice Beam for the KO. And just like that, that's 6 badges down with only a few more challenges in our way. Time to make our way over to the next city, and oh my god, this place is beautiful. The reflection of the clouds on all the lakes and puddles is breathtaking. Before we arrive at Lily Cove, I first stopped at the Safari Zone to hunt for our next encounter, who's gonna be Brendan the Snorlax. The last time I used Snorlax was in my very first video, so I'm excited to try him out in Hoenn. By the way, are you guys seeing the connection in Emerald's team yet? Besides Nolan, the rest of the team has something in common. I'll be watching the comments, so whoever guesses it correctly first, I'll pin your comment. Another quick stop before Lily Cove, and that's Mount Pyre for our last encounter. Here, we can find a Duskull, whom we catch and name Greta. Then, it's guns blazing as we clear through the rest of Mount Pyre, and then the Magma Hideout, where we need to battle Maxie. But now that we've got Lucy on her team, that fight is no problem. Lucy takes care of MIGHTYENA and Camerupt pretty easily, and Brendan takes care of his Crobat. Oh yeah, and Groudon gets loose, so we need to head over to the Aqua Hideout. Matt tries to stand in our way, but Spencer takes care of both his MIGHTYENA and Golbat. That battle was an embarrassment, man. You're trying to stop me, and you bring these 2 crappy Pokemon? I hope you get demoted for that, bro, I'm not even gonna lie. That's all the story for now, so we've got to continue our gym challenge. We make our way over to Moss Deep City, and for all the double battle trainers there, I led with Nolan and our new team member Greta for the Mystery Dungeon appreciation. Nolan tries to evolve a few times, but no. You're staying a Grovyle until I can get good footage of the 2 of you battling together. Against Tate and Liza, yeah, you bet I let Nolan evolve. They lead with Xatu and Claydol, so I send out Lucy and Nolan. We start outspeeding, firing off a super effective Leaf Blade into Claydol and a powerful Surf to hit both opponents. Xatu's gonna be chilling there for now, as Nolan and Lucy continue to target into the right side, outspeeding and taking out Solrock and Lunatone before they can contribute much. Now it's a 2v1, and even though Xatu set up 2 Calm Minds, we can switch to physical attacks to take him out, which wins us a nice and easy 7th gym badge. With our new badge, we now have Dive unlocked, which grants us access to Seafloor Cavern. There's a few puzzles here, but we can easily make our way through where we find Archie waking up Kyogre. But at this point, our team's fully maxed out, so his team's no problem at all. Nolan takes care of MIGHTYENA with a few Leaf Blades, which baits out his Crobat. I switch into Spencer, and after a little back and forth, we take him out with a Rock Slide. Finally, against Archie's Sharpedo, we switch into Brendan to take him out with a Body Slam, winning us the battle. Archie still manages to awaken Kyogre though. I mean, come on, why would you think the red orb would wake up the blue legendary? Well, I'm sure you guys know how this stuff goes by now. The 2 are duking it out at Sootopolis, so we head into the Cave of Origin, then surf over to Sky Pillar to tattle to Rayquaza. Then, the best cutscene ever plays as Mama Rayquaza comes down from the heavens to smack some sense into her 2 kids. Finally, with all the story done, Juan opens up his gym for us to challenge him. He leads with Love Disc, but we've got Tucker as our lead. If you look closely at her moves, it might look awfully close to another moveset we've run before. Yeah, Substitute plus Calm Mind is ridiculously broken. Love Disc struggles to break her sub as we set up to +6, and then it's sweeping time. Love Disc goes down to a Shockwave, Crawdon as well to another Shockwave, Whiscash goes down to a Psychic because he'd be immune, his Celio goes down to a Shockwave, and his final Kingdra actually survives a Shockwave and sets up a double team, but since Shockwave bypasses accuracy, he goes down to another one, winning us a very simple badge number 8. Okay, one last hurdle in our way before the Elite Four, and that's Wally at the start of Victory Road. This time, we were expecting him because I always mix this up with ORAS where he appears at the end of the cave. I'll be honest though, it's not much of a challenge, especially with Brandon's sheer bulk. We make our way through the cave and arrive at the Pokémon League. It's finally time to get ready to challenge the Elite Four. We've got to complete the Gauntlet Deathless since we don't get any other encounters for the secret boss fight against Steven. Also, we've got to keep these guys alive for the Battle Frontier later, so we can't be playing into any sacks for this run. With the team all leveled up, it's time to step in to take on the first challenge. Sydney starts the battle with MIGHTYENA, and we're leading with Lucy. His Intimidate doesn't affect our special attacks as we fire off a powerful Surf, nearly getting a clean one-shot. MIGHTYENA lowers our accuracy with Sand Attack, so I switch into Spencer on the turn Sydney heals. Then, with the Brick Break TM to replace Low Kick, we can chop our way through MIGHTYENA while tanking some soft crunches in return. Gotta love dark moves all being special attacks in this gen. Sydney's next Pokemon is Cacturne, so we immediately switch into Nolan on a resisted Needle Arm. We fire off a Dragon Claw, which, again, because of the physical special split, is a special attack in this gen, and we deal a decent amount of damage. Cacturne lowers our speed, but on the next turn, we still outspeed to take him out with another Dragon Claw. Third up is Absol, so we tag out into Brandon to put his high HP stat to use. Absol actually goes for a Swords Dance on the switch, and at this moment, I was a little terrified, but on the next turn, he only goes for Rock Slide, which we can comfortably tank as we fire back with Return for the almost one-shot. Their held Citrus Berry puts them out of heal range, so another Return does the job, taking Absol out. Sydney sends out Shiftry, but we came prepared too. We've got the powerful Ice Beam, but Shiftry instead sets up a double team, and Brandon subsequently misses his next attack. This could start getting out of hand, especially as Shiftry continues setting up and Brandon continues missing. Our held leftovers is helping out a bit, but this is really getting ridiculous. Shiftry even manages to land a Swagger, but on that turn, Brandon somehow breaks through the confusion and the evasion, landing an Ice Beam and bringing him down to the yellow. Sydney's gonna heal here, so I switch into Tucker and set up a substitute again. Shiftry's moveset is Double Team, Swagger, Torment, and Extrasensory, so he can't really touch Tucker. Somehow, his Torment bypasses our sub, so now we can't use the same move twice. It's a little annoying since we have to swap between Calm Mind and Shockwave, but it's not that bad since Shockwave ignores evasion. It's a true test of patience, but eventually we can break through and take out the annoying tree. And against Crawdon, we can take him out with a Shockwave, winning us a very tedious first Elite Four battle. Next up is Phoebe, a Ghost-type specialist, so this is Brandon's time to shine. She leads with Dusclops, so we send out Brandon to start firing off Shadow Balls. Ghost is physical in this generation, so we can actually take advantage of our high attack stat to fire off strong attacks. Dusclops goes down, her follow-up Banette goes down to 2 Shadow Balls, and Sableye follows suit, although she does try and set up double team, but Brandon still hits through. We crit her next Banette, which of course is a one-shot, and out comes Dusclops. Dusclops can be pretty bulky, so I switch into Lucy to get off a Toxic, guaranteeing our victory. Now it's just a matter of stalling as we switch into Spencer on a resisted Rock Slide before taking her out with a Rock Slide of our own. And with that, that's the second Elite Four member taken care of. Third up is Glacia, our Ice-type specialist. She leads with Celio, so I send out Tucker. It's substitute plus Calm Mind time, baby, as Celio only goes for a Hail. The Hail chip sucks, but Celio can't break through our sub with the Body Slam. The 25% to set up the substitute, combined with the Hail chip, is a little rough, but our health Citrus Berry lets us set up a little more. So after 3 Calm Minds, it's sweeping time. A single Shockwave takes care of Celio. A +3 Psychic decimates Glalie number 1 and Glalie number 2. And it takes a few hits, but Walrein gets fried as well, winning us our 3rd Elite Four battle. Our final challenge is against Drake, the knockoff Dragon Master. By the way, are there any Drake fans out there? He's totally overshadowed by Lance and Claire, although I can think of one person who likes him.
Cause my top 5 is Drake, 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 Drake!
He leads with Shelgon, but we've got Lucy, who packs a powerful punch with Ice Beam. Shelgon protects on turn 1, but on the next turn, he barely survives on 1 HP. Drake then heals, and a second Ice Beam gets a high roll, taking him out. Next up is Salamence, but since he has Rock Slide, I switch into Spencer to resist it. Then we can tank a Dragon Claw before firing back with our own Rock Slide. Our damage output isn't good enough, but on the next turn, Drake actually switches out to Flygon. Of course, we can't stay in on an Earthquake, so I switch into Lucy for the flying immunity. We easily tank a Dragon Breath before firing back with a 4x super effective Ice Beam, taking him out. But once Salamence comes back, we've got to switch out into Brendan to eat the Rock Slide. Good thing we've got our Ice Beam coverage because we eat another attack before taking out Salamence. Altaria comes out next, and he tries to go for Double Edge, but once again, Ice Beam being quad effective is another one-shot. Kingdra is last, but he gets greedy and tries to set up 2 Dragon Dances, which lets us safely secure the KO for the victory. By the way, look at Kingdra's face when he uses Dragon Dance. You guys ever messed around with the photo booth filters on Apple computers? It kind of reminds me of that. Man, me and my siblings would mess around with that for hours to take the funniest photos. Good times, man, good times. Alright, it's finally time to take on Champion Wallace. The true champion is often Meteor Falls, but we're gonna get to him eventually. For now though, Wallace leads with Wailord as we send out Noland. Since Wailord's water spouts can be pretty scary, we start the battle with a powerful Leaf Blade, nearly taking out the giant whale. Wailord only goes for Rain Dance, so on the next turn, I know Wallace is gonna heal, so we stay in and continue using Leaf Blade. I guess Wallace gave up on his Pokemon because instead of healing back to full, he just lets him go down. Milotic is up next, and playing around in Ice Beam, I switch into Brandon. We've got the Thick Fat ability, so damage from ice moves are halved. We do need to tank a Surf, but we've got amazing bulk and can take it with no problem. A little back and forth later, and Milotic finally goes down. Wallace sends out Tentacruel, but I decide to stay in and continue attacking. We've got amazing special defense, so we can tank a Hydro Pump and fire back with another powerful return. Then, on the next turn, we can heal back all our HP with Rest as we very comfortably take Hydro Pump after Hydro Pump. A few turns later, and we wake up, letting us finally take out Tentacruel. Ludicolo comes out next, but unfortunately for Wallace, Dark Brandon's already been unleashed. Our amazing special defense lets us tank anything Ludicolo throws at us, and our returns do way too much damage. Ludicolo goes down to 2 hits, and Wallace sends out Whiscash. I switch into Greta to give her some time to shine, and we can fire off a Will-O-Wisp to permanently cut Whiscash's attack in half. Then, it's a safe switch to Nolan as we take him out with a Leaf Blade. Last up is Wallace's Gyarados, and even though we get our attack drop from Intimidate, we stay in and use Leaf Blade. Gyarados tries to set up Dragon Dance, but we land a critical hit, taking out the Leviathan and winning us the champion battle. Gotta love the boosted crit chance, am I right? Now, while it may seem like the run is over, Emerald was known as the Battle Frontier guys, so I wouldn't be doing this video justice if we didn't check it out. Right off the bat, Scott the Woz actually greets us as we walk in, so I knew this guy was onto something throughout our adventure. We've got the entire frontier unlocked, but I decided to start at the Battle Factory. This one's actually run by Nolan, but it's a long road to fight him. I might be open to taking on all the battle facilities on stream sometime, but for the purpose of this video, I'll just be dipping my toes in the water. This facility operates with rental Pokemon, so we've got some options to choose from for our fight. The options are straight up trash, but we can make a decent team with these guys. Our opponent sends out Kadabra, and we got pretty lucky to start with Sableye. Of course, we completely counter him as we take him out with a feint attack, and against Quilava, our Kenai prevents his smokescreen from working. Oh, also, before X and Y, Knockoff only had 20 base power. The damage is pitiful, but I guess it was more of a utility move back then. Quilava's Flame Wheel actually does decent damage, so I switch into Mag Cargo. Did the AI cheat right there? Because there's no way he went for a Swift against Sableye, right? Either way, a Rock Slide plus the Sandstorm chip takes out Quilava, and against the final Furret, a few Embers is enough to finish the job, letting us beat the Battle Factory. Our next facility is the Battle Arena, which is run by Greta. Like with our first one, we won't actually be challenging her, but we'll still be giving it a fair shot. Actually, this one's a little different. Okay, one gripe I have with the Battle Frontier is that you need level 50 Pokemon to compete in the level 50 category. They can't just cap your levels at 50 like a Wi-Fi battle. So since our levels from the Elite Four are above 55, I'm stuck facing level 60 opponents. Oh, also, this battle is a little different. So our Pokemon are facing each other for 3 turns. If I knock out Nosepass, then obviously I win that round. But if we're both left standing after 3 turns, then we get judged based on our offensive style, our accuracy, and our remaining HP. So for example, we couldn't take out Nosepass, but Nosepass couldn't take us out either. After 3 turns, the ref calls the battle and ranks both our Pokemon. We're deemed the winner, so Nosepass gets knocked out, and our opponent sends out Houndour next. We can actually take him out with the return, so we win that round. And against the final Geodude, we actually get paralyzed too much and can't take her out, so we've got to be judged again. We somehow win for the Mind category even though we didn't attack, but Geodude wins on accuracy. Obviously, the Body category goes to us because, come on, we're a Snorlax. So we win this round too, letting us clear the Battle Arena. Next up is the Battle Dome, which is run by Tucker. I'm guessing you guys are starting to see where our nicknames come from, huh? This one's a little different too, since we get to bring 3 Pokemon with us. This one's in a tournament bracket style, and you get to find out a little information about your opponent's team before choosing 2 of your Pokemon to use in battle. Our opponent leads with Loudred, and we start with Noland. A few Leaf Blades take care of him, and against his follow-up Apom, I send out Tucker to take him out with a Shockwave. That may have seemed quick, but it's a tournament. We've still got a few more opponents left. Our next opponent has a Corsola, whom we easily take out with Noland, and a Lombre, but a few Leaf Blades can easily do the trick. Okay, I know we're underleveled, but it's nice that everyone's only got first or middle stage Pokemon. It's gonna be a pretty similar story from here on out. Our next opponent has a Magneton and a Minun, but Noland only needs a few Leaf Blades to take them out. This bracket's getting tighter as we get ready to take on Triathlete Carlo. Tucker has some flashbacks to the rival battle as we take out Combusken with a Psychic, and a few Shockwaves can deal with Pidgeot, winning us the battle. And that was apparently the last one. A nice and simple ending to a fun bracket, and that's the Battle Dome taken care of. The fourth one is, probably my least favorite. It's the Battle Pike, which is run by the Pike Queen Lucy. Design-wise, this building is sick, but content-wise, I wasn't a fan. We had to run through these rooms where we get 3 options to choose from. I just ran down the middle one each time, and I ended up in a room with a bunch of pillars. There's wild Dusclops here, but is this really meant to be a maze? It's amazingly stupid if you ask me, but I don't know. I really failed to see the point here. Our next room has a trainer, but she's only got first stage Pokemon, and Spencer can easily take them out. A little more running later, and we're faced with a somewhat tough trainer. That's not my words, by the way, that's what she called him. He leads with a Cloyster, but Noland can take care of her, along with his follow-up Politoed and Sharpedo. Somewhat easy trainer, more like it, but we continue forward, going through another one of those pillar mazes, taking on another trainer battle with first stage Pokemon, and I guess that's it. I really did not get that one at all. I feel like I kind of get the idea. It's like a pick your poison type challenge, but it felt like a worse version of a roguelike game. I'm probably not going back in there, not even to meet Lucy, man. That's the Battle Pike taken care of. Good riddance. Okay, the fifth one is probably my favorite. I've seen people talk about this one before, and for good reason. This one's the Battle Palace, and it's run by a wise old man named Spencer. The way it works is you choose 3 Pokemon, but you cannot choose which moves they use. Their nature dictates how they randomly pull moves, either an attacking move like Tackle, a defensive move like Harden, or a supporting move like String Shot. So, for example, if we're Adamant Nature, we've got a 38% chance to use an attacking move and 31% to use a defensive or supporting move. Some natures are much more skewed, like Sassy having an 88% chance to attack, or Gentle having a 70% chance to defend. And then once you fall below 50% health, you get all new percentages. It is super in-depth and sounds really fun, so I can't wait to try it out. Oh, also, more bonus points, the stage we battle on is sick too, with the river of water separating the trainers. The battle starts off as our opponent leads with Skiploom, and we start with Spencer. Skiploom goes for Mega Drain, and Spencer luckily pulls Rock Slide, which secures the one-shot. Lombre comes out next, so I switch into Noland. Lombre was incapable of using its power, which happens if it wants to use a move category, but the Pokemon isn't carrying any moves of that category. Nolan's actually pretty lucky with the RNG, pulling Leaf Blade and then Giga Drain. Lombre goes down, and the last Pokemon is Coughing. I switch into Brandon, who pulls a Return and an Ice Beam, taking him out and winning us the battle. That was super fun, and honestly, if I was gonna dedicate more time to any of these, it'd be that one. That's the Battle Palace completed, with 2 more to go. The 6th battle facility is the Battle Pyramid, which is run by the Pyramid King Brandon. Man, these titles are so cool, I wonder what I would be. Emerald would totally be the Gadget Expert Emerald. I'd probably be the Manga Enjoyer Magnus. Anyway, the Battle Pyramid is also not my favorite, since it feels like it's trying so hard to be a roguelike. You can bring 3 Pokemon, and your Pokemon can't bring any items. The purpose of this is to jump into the dungeon and wander around, picking up items and battling trainers. Defeating a trainer lets you see more of the area around you, so you can try and find the blue exit to the next floor. Defeating each trainer actually gives you a little hint for where the blue tile is, so I usually just battled one person to get a general direction and stumbled over to the exit. After clearing each floor, we arrive at the Pyramid Summit, where we are crowned the new conqueror and finally allowed to leave. That was a huge time sink, but under the right circumstances, I could see it being fun. The Pyramid King Brandon actually has the Reggie Trio and the legendary birds when you challenge him, so that's definitely pretty cool. It's just a slog to get through, so I'm good for now. That's another facility taken care of, with only 1 left. The final battle facility is the most straightforward. It's the Battle Tower, which is run by Annabelle, whom you might remember from Sun and Moon, but she actually originated in Hoenn. It's just a standard battle, so I went with the doubles format to feel closer to Pokemon's VGC format. Our opponent leads with Baltoy and Smoochum, but our strat involves spread moves. Spencer's got Rock Slide to hit both targets, and Lucy gets flinched, but we've got Surf for the dual coverage. Surf actually doesn't hit your teammates in these games, so we're safe to keep Spencer in. We actually get hit by a Spark, but Lucy's able to tank it with her high defenses. I switch into Nolan to finish the battle, and that's basically it. We finish the rest of the battles to get our points, but that's our little sampler of the battle frontier. Altogether, it's a pretty fun challenge, but I can see why Game Freak wouldn't want to reprogram this into each game. It's a lot of content that not everyone's gonna dig deep into, and while some were a lot of fun, some of them didn't really hit for me. With the battle frontier explored, we've still got one final challenge ahead of us, and that's the secret boss fight against Steven. I've leveled up the team to level 78, and we get prepared to challenge him in Meteor Falls. Steven leads with Skarmory, and I start with Brandon. Skarmory loves to set up spikes on the first turn, but I've taught Brandon Flamethrower to deal with him. On the next turn, he hits us with a soft Steel Wing, and we're able to take out the Metal Bird before he can set up further. Next out is Armaldo, so I switch out into Greta to tank an Ancient Power. I try to set up a Will-O-Wisp, but unfortunately, due to its low accuracy, we miss our first attack. We need to tank another Ancient Power, but on the next turn, we can connect, having his attack. Using this opportunity, I pivot into Spencer in case he was going for an Ancient Power, and then into Lucy on a resisted Water Pulse. One Surf later, and that's Armaldo taken care of. Steven's next Pokemon is Claydol, who also threatens Ancient Powers, so I switch back into Spencer. Claydol instead sets up a Reflect, so now we could be in trouble for his Earthquake. I switch into Nolan for the Resist, and then we take out a huge chunk of his HP with Leaf Blade. One Giga Drain later, and that's Claydol taken care of. Steven sends out his ace, his Metagross, but we've got Dig to help us out. Reflect wears off, and our Dig connects, but barely for any damage. Metagross then connects his Meteor Mash, which does way more than I was expecting. The HP bar keeps going down until Nolan finally collapses. I severely underestimated Metagross's damage output, and unfortunately, that cost us Nolan's life. Rest well, buddy, you deserve it. I send out Brandon next, but Metagross outspeeds and hits another hard Meteor Mash, even getting the +1 attack boost. We fire back with the Flamethrower, which takes out a decent chunk, but it's looking a little scary now. I'm forced to stay in and tank another attack, and Brandon survives on 4 HP. We fire back with the Flamethrower, finally taking out his ace. Brandon's basically dead now, since we would die to the spikes if we switch back in. Still though, to save his life, I switch into Lucy on Aggron's soft Dragon Claw and fire back with the Surf, which targets his weaker special defense for the one-shot. Last up is Steven's final Pokemon, his Cradily, but we stay in and fire off an Ice Beam. It does about half, and Cradily retaliates with an Ancient Power, which immediately gets the Omni boost. Now Ice Beam won't kill, so looking back, I should have went for a Toxic to play around the boost. I switch into Spencer to resist the Ancient Power, but on the next turn, a Giga Drain takes us out. This gives us a clean switch into Tucker, our last team member at full HP. There's always a chance for Cradily to be stupid and use Confuse Ray, so I decide to set up a substitute. Yeah, this will take a quarter of our HP, but Cradily actually falls for it and goes for Confuse Ray. We can safely fire off Psychic, but Cradily sets up Ingrain and starts healing each turn. Another Psychic isn't enough for the kill, but now Steven heals, and at this point, if we don't get some defense drops, it's gonna be pretty scary. I tried to set up a little with Calm Mind to put us on an even playing field, but Cradily breaks our sub with Ancient Power, which, reminder, is physical in these games, and after a few more turns going back and forth, he even gets a second Ancient Power boost. At this point, I think it's pretty clear what's happening. Cradily takes out Tucker, Greta, Lucy, and Brandon, ending our run at the final fight. All of this because he got the Ancient Power boost on the first attack. It was really ridiculous RNG, but am I gonna try again for this loss? We made it all the way here just to lose at the secret boss fight. I'm not counting this, but just to prove to myself that I could beat the fight with this team, I decided to reset and try this battle again, although I fully acknowledge that we lost this one. This time, as Steven sends out Skarmory, we lead with Lucy instead. Our Surf is a 2-shot, which lets Skarmory get off a layer of spikes, but we're still sitting at full health as Claydol comes out. I figured we were safe to stay in and use Surf, especially that Claydol only set up Reflect last time. Surf nearly takes them out, and as if on cue, Claydol sets up the Reflect. Steven heals on the next turn, but an Ice Beam and another Surf takes them out. Armaldo is up next, so I switch into Greta. We're immune to a Slash, but on the next turn, we tank an Ancient Power and set up a Will-O-Wisp to have his physical attack. Even though his attack is cut, Armaldo lands a critical hit on his next Ancient Power, which even gets an Omni boost. I'm getting flashbacks of the last battle, but at least Armaldo is more manageable compared to Cradily. No Ingrain means we can slowly whittle away at his HP, and with our held leftovers, we can slowly bring him down to the red. Steven heals with a full restore, but we can tank his Water Pulse and set up another burn. Rinse and repeat, and Armaldo finally goes down as we're barely hanging on with 12 HP. Metagross comes out next to avenge his fallen brother, but we can switch into Brandon on a Shadow Ball. Meteor Mash does a lot of damage, but we start firing back with Flamethrowers, which even gets a 10% burn. The AI sees that their physical damage is worse now, so it switches to a weaker Psychic, which we can easily tank. One Flamethrower later, and the supercomputer is finally taken care of. Steven sends out Aggron next, so I switch into Lucy to dodge the Earthquake. And just like last time, a single Surf is enough to take him out. Finally, Steven sends out our last run ender, his Cradily. But unlike last time, we've got experience and knowledge on our side, so we immediately get off a Toxic to secure the victory. Now, it's just a matter of stalling Cradily out until the Toxic Poison can run its course. We can help out too by going for an Ice Beam, but unfortunately, Ancient Power rolls better on the second attack, which ends up taking out Lucy. But looking at the rest of our team, we can easily finish off Cradily, proving once and for all that this battle is 100% possible, as long as Steven doesn't get to stack Ancient Power boosts. Isn't it nice to be a Dex holder in the Hoenn region? I sure do enjoy walking around the Hoenn region with my Pokédex. Yeah guys, having a Pokédex in the Hoenn region is the best. Guys, can I come in now? No, Wally, get the f*** out of here.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it.
So, yeah, in the manga, Wally kinda got shafted. He wasn't a Dex holder, even though he had a full team, and he was Trico's trainer for a while, so yeah, if anyone was done dirty, it was him. Well, regardless, I wanted to see if Wally's team could beat a Hardcore Nuzlocke of the Hoenn region, since in effort to tell a good story, while some of his team is insane, the other half, well...
It's the biggest piece of dog shit. Bruh.
So to start our journey, guess what? Custom sprites are back. It was definitely a little headache to figure out how to do this run, since if we did it in ORAS, we could get a Magnezone and an Eviolite for Roselia, but then we'd miss out on walking around the overworld as Wally. I think I found a pretty good compromise though, and I think you guys will like it. So after walking around and enjoying our new look, it's time to rescue Professor Birch, who lets us choose Trico from his bag to defeat the wild Zigzagoon. In the manga, Trico was supposed to be Emerald's Pokemon, but all the weather events caused by Groudon and Kyogre caused a huge flood that swept away his Pokeball. He was lost at sea for a while before being rescued by Wally. Wally helped him recover, and later on, when Wally was training with Norman at Sky Pillar, Trico would end up rescuing Wally too, catching him as the floor underneath him gave way and holding the two of them up with his sticky gecko hands. Later on, he would evolve into Grovyle, but after awakening Rayquaza, the two of them would get separated again as Rayquaza blasted them apart when he took off to the sky. So we won't be evolving past Grovyle, but I'm not expecting that to be an issue, since we should have our other team members by then. So after taking out Sapphire and her starter Chick, we can officially start our journey as we make our way over to Petalburg City. We go and talk to Norman, but before we can ask him to train us, we can see the casualty of playing as Wally, as Ruby's the one who barges in to ask for Norman's help. His colors are all messed up, which is something I couldn't fix without ruining a lot of other NPC colors. So after following this monstrosity to the tall grass, he teaches us how to catch our Ralts, and with all the tutorial stuff out of the way, we can head back into the grass to catch our very own Ralts. In the manga, Ruby lent Rara to Wally to help him catch his first Pokemon, who was actually his Kecleon. The three of them got separated by an earthquake, and Wally ended up taking care of Rara for the time being. He helped her evolve into Kirlia before ultimately returning her to Ruby later on. So with all our possible encounters at this point, we don't have anything else to do but to head in and take on our first gym challenge. Roxanne leads with Geodude as we're starting the battle with Shelly, and with the Bullet Seed TM conveniently gifted to us before the gym, we can connect for an easy 2-hit to take her out. Her following Geodude meets the same fate to a 2-hit Bullet Seed, and her Nose Pass, even though she's a little tankier than the rest of the team, also gets swiftly cleaned up by a few attacks, meaning we've just won our first gym badge without breaking a sweat. After the battle, Trico evolves into Grovyle, but before we can do anything else, the Devon Corporation needs our help dealing with Team Aqua. So we can make our way through the routes, rescuing Pico from the Aqua Grunt, and after retrieving the Devon parts, we can now sail with Mr. Briny towards Dewford Town. There's a new gym here, but this upcoming battle's gonna be a tough one, since our level cap is 19, and Tara can't evolve into Kirlia for the stat boost until level 20, so with no new encounters, it's looking kinda bleak. But we are rocking the powerful Confusion, and all we need is for the AI to mess up a little and set up at the wrong time. So with all our prep done, we can head in to take him on. Brawly leads with Machop as we start with our hard counter Tara. We can immediately outspeed as our Confusion nearly takes him out, while Machop only goes for a Seismic Toss. That's set damage, so even after Brawly heals, we can just take him out with a few more hits. Makuhita comes out next, but since his only damaging move is Focus Punch, we can just stay in and break his focus with Confusion until we take him out. That only leaves Makuhita, and a Confusion nearly one-shots him. I swear, if we had just a little more special attack, this whole fight would be free, but Wally's AI just made it free by going for a bulk up. I guess he didn't see the kill, so he wanted to set up, so despite the citrus recovery, we can just connect with another Confusion to take him out, winning us the battle and letting us collect badge number 2. With our increased level cap, Tara evolves into Kirlia, so with everything complete, we can sail with Mr. Briny to Slateport to make our way towards the next gym challenge. On the way there, we also stop Team Aqua at the Slateport Museum as Shelly completely wipes their team with our grass coverage. So far, our 2 team members have both been from other teams, with Trico from Emerald's team and Ralts from Ruby's team, but that's soon gonna change. There's an infamously hard rival fight coming up, and with our 2 team members, it's definitely not possible. Sapphire's Torchic is now a Combuskin, and considering that's super effective into Shelly, and Tara's base stats are worse than Trico's, I'm not kidding, look it up, the run would basically end here. So to help out with our viable encounters and to make this run actually doable, I decided to change the encounter pool here, moving Magnemite out of New Mauville and having them populate the grass here. That way, we can have access to him before beating Norman, since that's when you normally get the Surf HM. So my headcanon is that New Mauville is now booming with life, and it's even seeping out into the neighboring routes, hence the Magnemite here. We catch one and name him Tick, and in the manga, Wally didn't catch his Magnezone until the ORAS arc, so it's nice that we can get him early. Of course, we can evolve into Magnezone, but since the in-game Wally had a Magneton on his team, I feel like it's a nice compromise. So with our new team member, I was feeling pretty confident to take on Sapphire. She leads with Wingull, so we can start with Tick for the hard counter. A Thundershock can easily take care of her lead as Sapphire sends out Combuskin, which is the whole reason why I was so scared. He threatens Ember and Double Kick, so our best bet is to switch into Tara. Unfortunately, we do get hit with an Ember, but after tanking another one, our Confusion can nearly take him out, as our Oranberry recovers a bit of HP. This puts us in range of surviving another one, and we just barely survive on 1 HP as another Confusion can take out our chicken. Truthfully, since we can't evolve into Gardevoir, I was prepared to let Tara go down for a safe switch, but luckily we didn't have to do that. That only leaves her remaining Lombre, but Shelly can come in and clean up with a few Bullet Seeds, meaning we've just dodged this potential run ender. That means we can make our way into Mauville City, and after dealing with this little glitchy problem, we can easily take out his Ralts, and now that the neighboring routes are available to us, that's where our next change comes in, as I've reintroduced Roselia back to the population here. It never made sense to me that Roselia was an encounter here for Ruby and Sapphire, but in Emerald, which is supposed to be the definitive version, Roselia is just gone from the game. So yeah. I just added his encounter back here. In the manga, Roselia was part of Wally's team when he found Trico, and he actually helped him recover with the help of his aromatherapy. And so, with all our encounters taken care of, we headed into the gym to take on the next challenge. Watson leads with Voltorb as we're starting with Tara, and since all electric moves are special in Gen 3, we start the battle by tanking a Spark before setting up with a Calm Mind. Our mediocre stats need any help they can get, so after tanking another hit, we can fire back with a Psychic from the game corner for a one-shot. We were holding a Cherry Berry in case of any paralysis shenanigans, so as the Electrike comes in, he only wastes a turn going for Howl, meaning another Psychic can one-shot him as well. Watson sends out Manectric next, so after tanking a Sonic Boom, we can fire back with a +1 Psychic for pitiful damage. I opt to switch into our newest team member Rosa on the resisted shockwave, and after setting up a leech seed and paralyzing him with stun spore, we can safely set up with growth as Magneton tries to paralyze us back with thunderwave. But our Hell Cherry Berry can keep us healthy, so before he can paralyze us again, we can just take him out with a Mega Drain. But Magneton tanks the resisted hit. He fires off another Thunder Wave, crippling our speed as the seeds finish off his final notch of health. So as Watson sends out his Ace Manectric, you might think we're in danger, but we're actually totally safe to stay in and set up another Leech Seed. Manectric is only going for Howl, so after he uses Quick Attack, our Poison Point even activates, poisoning him as we can continue chipping away with Mega Drain. Eventually, we do have to switch out though, and we've got the perfect answer in our Tick, since we can resist both Quick Attack and Shockwave. So a few Sonic Booms later, with the Leech Seed and Poison taking away from their health, we can secure ourselves a fairly simple victory, taking out Manectric and winning us a pretty simple badge number 3. Hey, real quick, I just want to remind you that if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to leave a like. It's totally free for you, and you can always remove your like later on if you change your mind. It's like a treat for me, you know, like if your dog does a trick well, then you'll give him a treat. So if I make a video well, then you can give me a like. I guess all YouTubers are kind of like your personal entertainers, so don't be stingy with those likes, okay? It really helps us out. Anyway, back in our playthrough, we've got to make our way through the routes, heading up the volcano and towards the upper half of Hoenn. After passing through Fall Arbor Town, we can head down the path here towards Meteor Falls, and on the way there, we can catch our 5th team member, a Swablu I named Poco. In the manga, Wally revealed he had caught Altaria at the same time he revealed his Magnezone, and with his 2 airborne Pokemon, he had Altaria catch Ruby to save him from falling out of the sky. And with our new team member, we've got a vital immunity for the upcoming boss battle, as we've got a safe switch in for Maxie's Camerupt. He leads with Mightyena as we're starting with Tick, and even though he lowers our accuracy with Sand Attack, causing our Thunder Wave to miss, we can just stay in, sponge another accuracy drop from a second Sand Attack, sir, a second Sand Attack has hit the Magnemite, and paralyze him on the next turn. Then we can switch into Rosa as we set up the Leech Seeds and start stacking growths. With our Oranberry to keep us healthy, we can set up to +4 as Mightyena struggles to get an attack in, and despite our accuracy drops, with our Magical Leaf that bypasses accuracy, we can take out his lead as we're in a pretty good position for the rest of his team. Maxie sends out Camerupt next, and with our +4 special attack, we can just barely take him out in one shot, which, yes, is something that I did a rough calc for, which is why I needed Tick to paralyze his lead to preserve Rose's health so we could safely set up to +4. So with that big threat out of the way, Maxie's final Zubat is easily handled by Tick with a single Thunderbolt, meaning we've just passed this difficult checkpoint and set back Team Magma's plans. Now, it won't always be this easy taking on fire types, because looking at our team, it's pretty obvious we've got a glaring weakness here. Shelly, Tick, and Rosa will get melted by an overheat, and meanwhile, Tara and Poco have such low base stats that they'd get melted just as easily. So for the upcoming gym fight, we've only got one strat to beat our team, and with everything else prepared, we might as well head in to take her on. Flannery leads with Numel as we're starting the battle with Rosa. So on turn 1, we can paralyze her with a Stun Spore as Numel fires back with an Overheat. That's exactly what I was afraid of, but I did a rough calc and we just need to dodge the crit. We're able to hang in there, so since that lowers Numel to -2 special attack, we can switch into Tara to start setting up with Double Team. This is definitely a cheese strat, but this is literally the only option available to us. It's not even guaranteed, since Numel actually sets up Sunny Day to connect with a sun-boosted Overheat, but since they keep lowering the special attack and the AI doesn't want to switch, we can safely stay in and continue setting up. The Double Team is only here so we can dodge Magnitudes, but eventually we get to +6 evasion, then +6 with Calm Mind, and then at this point, we can finally start sweeping. Numel goes down to a Psychic, Slugma gets outsped and taken out by a single Psychic, Camerupt, who I was the most scared of, also gets outsped and one-shot by another Psychic, and lastly, her Ace Torkoal gets outsped and taken out by a single Psychic, meaning we've managed to get past the toughest challenge of the game with only half of the Hoenn region left to conquer. As we leave the gym, Sapphire meets up with us and gives us the go goggles, meaning we can finally step into the desert to pick up 2 more encounters. We actually got a random full odds shiny Sandshrew, which I was not expecting at all. And it would be so cool to bring this green guy onto the team, but Wally never used a Sandshrew on his team, so... Well, with that little distraction out of the way, we can catch our 2 team members we were looking for, the first of which being a Trapinch named Colt. In the manga, Wally's Flygon was actually Norman's Pokemon, but after the 2 of them trained together at Sky Pillar, Norman decided to let Wally keep him as he had mastered their training together. Our other encounter here is a Cacnea named Spike, which would make that 3 grass types on the team, so we've got to do a little rearranging here. In the manga, Wally had his Cacturn with him when they found Trico, and he was the one who ultimately saved Trico, as Wally had him use Needle Arm to catch Trico's bag in order to rescue him from the ocean's currents. That's all our encounters for now, so after booting Tara off the team to make room for Spike, we can get one last evolution in as Tick evolves into Magneton, but with nothing else left to take care of, it's time to head in to take on our next gym challenge. Norman leads with Spinda, but since we're starting the battle with Tick, we can actually outspeed and fire off a Stab Thunderbolt, which ends up being a one-shot. Spinda gets taken out without a sweat, as Norman panics and sends out Slacking, but we actually resist all of his moves. Slacking goes for a yawn, making us drowsy as Tick fires back with another Thunderbolt, which is just shy of the 2-hit KO. I know we're about to fall asleep, but Slacking's gonna loaf here, so I decide to stay in and fire off another Thunderbolt, bringing him to the red as a Citrus Berry puts him out of heal range. We do fall asleep, but a held Chesto Berry can play around that as we immediately wake up. On the next turn, Slacking goes for a Facade, but we can easily tank it as we take him out with another Thunderbolt. Vigoroth comes out next, but our strategy is unchanged as we tank a Slash and connect with another Thunderbolt, which surprisingly gets another clean one-shot. That only leaves Linoon, but he makes our job easier as he goes for a Belly Drum, cutting his HP in half and letting us finish him off with a final attack, winning us the battle as we collect a fairly simple badge number 5. And so, with Surf now unlocked, we can make our way to the other half of Hoenn, where we've got some Team Aqua story to take care of. By the way, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like this little trek of the journey is super forgettable. The routes going through here are way too long, and the end result is just the Weather Institute. I feel like this should have been shrunk down to help with the pacing, or just have more stuff to do here, cause right now, it's just a route that everyone passes through and that's it. Well, regardless, we can head into the Weather Institute as our triple grass coverage completely wipes the floor with their water types, and our Spike even evolves into Cacturn to help take care of Shelly's Carvanha. We didn't even learn any grass moves yet, but Carvanha is so frail that a single feint attack takes him out. Then Tick can finish off the Mightyena, so we've just foiled Team Aqua's plans for now as we can finally make our way towards Fortree City. Our next gym challenge is here, but before we take her on, we've got one last encounter to round out the team, and it's actually Wally's very first Pokemon. Steven lends us the Devon Scope, letting us catch the wild Kecleon on the bridge, and in the manga, Kecleon was actually Wally's first ever Pokemon, whom he had caught with the help of Ruby and Rara. When they were rescuing Trico, after Cacturn had pinned the bag to a rock with Needle Arm, Kecleon was the one who used his long tongue to grab it, bringing Trico to safety onto their raft. So with Kecleon caught, we've now got our full team, so I replaced Shelly to make room for our new guy. Kecleon's one of those normal types that learns basically every TM, so we can get some good use out of him despite how mediocre his regular moveset is. And what better way to put that up to the test than to take on the next gym leader? So with all our TMs taught and our team leveled up, it's time to head in to take her on. Winona leads with Swablu, so we're honoring the mirror matchup by leading with Poco. And right off the bat, we can outspeed and fire off a super effective Ice Beam, nearly taking them out and also getting a clutch freeze in the process. It wasn't really needed, but as Winona wastes a heal, we can just take her out with a couple more Ice Beams while staying at full HP. Tropius comes out next, and our stats just aren't up to par as a quad effective Ice Beam just barely misses out on the kill, which gives Tropius the opportunity to set up a Sunny Day. So now that his chlorophyll kicks in, he can outspeed and hit us with a weak aerial ace, but one ice beam later and he's taken care of. Winona sends out Pelipper next, but we can very safely switch into Tick as she goes for her court-mandated Protect. Then, a single Thunderbolt can easily one-shot her bird out of the sky. That means Altaria's up next, who's threatening the quad-effective Earthquake, so we can very safely switch into our newest team member Leon, who can tank the hit quite comfortably as we fire back with the quad-effective Ice Beam, which doesn't kill thanks to our garbage stats. At this point, I know Winona definitely heals, and our Citrus means we'd survive another hit, so I just have Leon stay in and fire off another Ice Beam. That brings her to the red, meaning Leon's gotta tank one final Earthquake, which we do very comfortably. So one final Ice Beam and her ace goes down, leaving only her Skarmory. But Leon can bow out now as we send Tick back in to finish the battle with a Thunderbolt, taking out her Metal Bird and winning us the 6th gym badge. So with Winona defeated, we can head east and make our way through the routes, including stopping by Mount Pyre to stop Team Aqua. With all these trainers to battle and our increased level cap, we have a noteworthy evolution as Poco evolves into Altaria, and with Team Aqua defeated and the old couple rescued, we can head back towards Jagged Pass to stop Team Magma from waking Groudon. And with all the trainers here, Colt also evolves into Vibrava, so with the second immunity to Maxie's Camerupt thanks to our Levitate ability, the fight's not gonna be difficult at all. Maxie's kinda stupid because he tries to use the blue orb to wake the red legendary, which causes Groudon to fly out in anger. And in a fit of rage, Maxie challenges us to a fight, but it's not difficult at all as Tick takes out MIGHTYENA with a few Thunderbolts, which baits Camerupt to use Magnitude, but we can switch into our new evolution Colt to show off our Levitate immunity. And this is why Levitate is so cool, because we can use Dig going literally underground and Magnitude still won't affect us. Of course, his AI will never click it, but a few digs can take out his ugly cow as Maxie sends out his last Pokemon, his Crobat, but a quick switch into Tick and we can zap him out of the sky with a Thunderbolt, defeating Maxie as Team Magma is dealt with for now. So with Groudon unleashed, we've got to head after Team Aqua, and after witnessing them steal a submarine,
and I've broken some rules to make this,
we need to follow them back to their hideout to try and stop their plans. Their admin Matt tries to stop us.
Don't forget to become a bud and hit that sub.
But this guy has probably the worst team, proportionally for where you fight them in the story. Tick takes care of his MIGHTYENA with Thunderbolt, and then against his Golbat, we do the exact same to win the battle. I know he's not Archie, but pacing-wise, after we just fought a Crobat, it's a little odd to have such a pushover battle. That's enough story for now though, as we've still got a gym challenge to take on. Our next one is across the ocean, so we can make our way over to Moss Deep City to take them on. Tate and Liza are a doubles battle, and they lead with Xatu and Claydol against our Spike and Poco. I know they're psychic trainers, but their secondary types have so many exploitable weaknesses, and not to mention our Spike is completely immune to their psychic moves. So we start the battle with an Ice Beam into Xatu, getting a critical hit and scoring an easy one-shot. They send out Solrock next, but I actually had Spike go for a feint attack into the Solrock slot. We nearly take him out before he can even attack, as Claydol foolishly goes for an Earthquake, which was their main strat anyway, but we can take a page from their book and bring Poco for the flying immunity, and also Spike for the grass resist. So the rest of the battle is a pretty easy cleanup, as Spike finishes off Solrock with another feint attack, Poco finishes off Claydol with an Ice Beam, and the two of them finish Lunatone with a Dragon Breath and feint attack combo, winning us a very simple badge number 7. So with the gym battle knocked out, Team Magma now storms the Space Center, so it's our job to team up with Steven to take them out. We easily handle them with our team of Pokemon that totally should have been pseudo-legendaries, and now that we've fully earned Steven's trust, he gives us the Dive HM so we can chase Team Aqua to the Seafloor Cavern.
I'd like to be remembered as an innovator.
Bruh.
So after clearing through the puzzles here, we find Kyogre at the depths of the cave, but Archie runs out and challenges us to a fight, thinking we were here to steal his catch. Like his admin before him, it's not a tough battle as Tick takes out MIGHTYENA and Crobat with a single Thunderbolt each, and despite his Sharpedo's best attempt to stop us with swagger shenanigans, we're able to attack through it and one-shot him with a Thunderbolt as well. But Archie, being the sore loser he is, still activates the red orb, causing Kyogre to fly out in anger as well. It's total mayhem on the surface, so as Maxie and Archie scurry away to hide out from the disaster they've caused, Steven catches us and tells us there's one possible out to this conundrum. Even though the two titans are fighting in Sootopolis, and by fighting I mean having the ultimate staring contest, we can follow Steven into the Cave of Origin, finding Wallace and learning about Sky Pillar. We're just the man for the job since we started off by training with Norman in Sky Pillar, so we're very familiar with the rough terrain and all the challenges here. So after climbing the tower, we're greeted by the Lord of the Skies himself as Rayquaza wakes from its slumber and flies off into the sky. Also, I guess canonically, this is where we lose Grovyle, so it'll be no time before Emerald meets him in the battle frontier. Arriving back at Sootopolis, we witness as the Serpent puts an end to the fight with what looks like a Hyper Voice.
Actually, Rayquaza can't learn Hyper Voice in Gen 3.
Well, apparently, starting in Gen 4, he does learn Hyper Voice as part of his regular learn set, so I wonder if that's meant to be a callback to this moment. Well, regardless, with the weather event stopped, we can finally finish off our gym challenge as only one more gym leader stands in our way. And since our level caps increased, Colt can also evolve into Flygon, and after making our way through the ice puzzles, it's time to take him on. Hoenn leads with Love Disc as we're starting the battle with Leon. And despite our mediocre stats, Love Disc's stats are even more mediocre, so we can just one-shot her with a Thunderbolt. Whiscash comes out next, so we've got to switch out now, and Spike is literally the perfect counter to his fish. His only attacking moves are Water Pulse and Earthquake, so we can very safely stay in and set up the Leech Seeds. And after getting to +6 with Growth, the rest of his team falls victim to our overpowered Cactus. Whiscash goes down to a single Giga Drain, Celio also gets easily one-shot by another Giga Drain, Kingdra actually outspeeds thanks to a Swift Swim and goes for the double team, but another Giga Drain actually crits and takes him out. But we also did have Feint Attack if that got out of hand, so we weren't in any real danger. Then his remaining Crawdaunt is also one-shot, meaning our little Cactus has just swept through the rest of the fight, winning us our 8th and final gym badge. And so, with one last challenge ahead of us, we got ourselves ready to head through Victory Road, where we also take out that Ruby glitch from earlier. His team isn't difficult at all, as Poco takes out his lead Altaria with the quad-effective Ice Beam, his follow-up Delcatty with a Dragon Breath, his Magneton with a Flamethrower, his Roselia with another Ice Beam, and lastly, against his Gardevoir, we can bring out Spike to take him out with a Feint Attack, meaning we've only got a straight trek left through the caves for our last challenge. And with Victory Road behind us, we make our way into the final halls for the last gauntlet before us. Can our half-good, half-bad team carry us through the upcoming fights? Let's find out. First up is Sydney, who leads with MIGHTYENA as we're starting with Tick. And since our level cap is 9 levels higher than his lead, we can easily take out his team as MIGHTYENA falls to a single Thunderbolt, his follow-up Crawdaunt gets outsped and meets the same fate. His Shiftry actually resists our attack, so I switch out into Poco to take him out with an Ice Beam. But Shiftry tanks it on 1 HP and retaliates with a Swagger, so on the turn the AI heals, we can switch into Leon, who also just barely misses the kill. But after Shiftry only hits us back with a Torment, we can just take him out with one more hit. Sydney sends out Cacturn next, and even though we can't use Ice Beam, we can just switch to Flamethrower for another easy one-shot. That only leaves his Absol, but he's no match for our Ice Beam plus Flamethrower combination, as we can two-shot his ace, winning us the battle and making that one down with 3 to go. Next up is Phoebe, but with Spike on the team, I'm not scared of her at all. She leads with Dusclops as we start with Tick, and after Dusclops goes for her court-mandated Protect, we can tag her with the Thunder Wave on the next turn as Dusclops makes our job easier by going for a Curse. That cuts her HP in half, so that's a great moment to bring out Spike, who can set up the Leech Seeds as well as a couple Growths.
So a Giga Drain can finish off her lead while regaining back some health, and since all dark moves are special in Gen 3, our feint attacks can just sweep through the rest of her team, taking out her second Dusclops in one hit, along with her Banette, her Sableye, even though her dark typing makes it a neutral hit, and lastly her second Banette, making it a pretty simple sweep of the second Elite Four member. Third up is Glacia, but with Tick on our side, we're gonna have a pretty easy time tearing through her team. Her lead Celio gets one-shot by a Thunderbolt, which immediately brings out Walrein. Walrein actually outspeeds us and lands a fairly decent Surf, but we can tank it and fire back with another Thunderbolt, which despite Walrein's strong defenses, can get another simple one-shot. Glalie comes out next, and since we don't have the tools to deal with him, I switch into Leon, who eats an Ice Beam on the switch-in as we actually get our type changed thanks to our ability. That means we're gonna resist any future Ice Beams, so we can safely set up a sub and then take her out with a Flamethrower. Glacia sends out Celio next, and while Tick can definitely one-shot her, I don't want to waste this perfectly good sub, so we just stay in and use Thunderbolt. It doesn't do that much damage thanks to a light screen Glalie had managed to set up earlier, but since Celio only goes for a Hail, we can continue staying in and going for our Thunderbolts. Eventually, the light screen wears off, meaning we can deal more damage and finally take her out, leaving only Glalie, who actually outspeeds us and nails us with a Shadow Ball. That causes us to change into the Ghost type, so even though we can chunk her down with a Flamethrower, we've got to switch out on the next turn to avoid the super effective hit. I bring out Tick for the resist, and one Thunderbolt later and we're in the clear, taking out her final Pokemon and making that 3 down with 1 to go. That only leaves Drake, the Dragon-type master, so as he leads with Shelgon, we can start the battle with our own dragon in Poco. So after Shelgon goes for his court-mandated Protect, we can just outspeed and take him out with a single Dragon Breath on the next turn. Drake sends out Altaria next, but since we're pretty speedy, we can outspeed and fire off a quad-effective Ice Beam for another one-shot. The AI here is pretty bad, as they love sending out Pokemon who are weak to you, I guess as their way to make the game a little easier, so we can take out his follow-up Flygon with another quad-effective Ice Beam. Drake then sends out a Salamence, who actually outspeeds us and fires off a Dragon Claw. It chunks us pretty low, but Poco, the absolute GOAT, tanks the hit and fires back with another Ice Beam, securing the one-shot and only leaving one final threat to face. Drake sends out Kingdra, and our Citrus Berry actually procs now, so we can get a little chunk of health back. That means we can stay in and use Dragon Breath, bringing them to below half, and since Kingdra's Body Slam doesn't get the para, we're safe to stay in and use one final Dragon Breath, finishing off the Seahorse and winning us the final Elite Four battle. That only leaves one last challenge in this gauntlet, that being Champion Wallace himself. But with 3 hard counters to his water types, I think our little team's got a fair shot. He leads with Wailord as we're starting the battle with Leon. I wanted to use Leon since we outspeed and can immediately cut his health in half with the Thunderbolt. That also cuts the damage of a potential Water Spout, so we can tank it as our color change actually changes us to the Water type. So after taking out his lead with another Thunderbolt, our new Water typing now baits out Ludicolo. And that's exactly what I wanted, since he's the perfect setup fodder for Spike. Ludi tries to set up Double Team, but we can start setting up with Growth, getting to +6 special attack. And once again, since Feint Attack is a special move that also can't miss, we can bypass all of his evasion boosts as we take him out. Wallace then sends out Milotic, but a +6 Giga Drain easily one-shots the Serpent while getting all our health back. Then his Tentacruel falls to a single Feint Attack, his Whiscash goes down to a quad-effective Giga Drain, and lastly, his Gyarados gets taken out by another Feint Attack, meaning Spike, with a little assist from Leon, has just swept through the entire champion fight, crowning us as the new champions of Hoenn. But the game's not done yet. Everyone knows Champion Wallace is a pushover with any electric or grass coverage. The real challenge of Emerald is taking on Steven in his secret fight in Meteor Falls. It's definitely going to be a tricky one, as Steven breaks from the monotype and has a well-balanced team, but with everything ready, we got ourselves ready for the toughest fight yet. Steven leads with Skarmory as we're starting with Tick. I guess our Thunderbolt is just too scary, because instead of setting up with a layer of spikes, Steven opts to go straight for the Steel Wing. It hardly does any damage, as a Thunderbolt easily fries his lead out of the sky. This always baits out Aggron next, since he sees a super effective Earthquake, so I switch into Colt for the Levitate immunity. Then a quad-effective Earthquake manages to break through Aggron's high defenses, very narrowly securing the one-shot. This causes Steven's AI to panic and send out his ace Metagross, his powerful pseudo-legendary and backbone of his team, but Colt's not scared. We stay in and fire off another Earthquake, and man, Metagross is just way too bulky because despite the stab, despite being super effective, it only does about 2/3 of his health. His supercomputer, in return, then misses a Meteor Mash, so after he heals up a little with the Citrus Berry, we can just take him out on the next turn with another EQ. That means Steven's gonna send out Claydol next, so that's the perfect opportunity to bring out Spike. We can fire off powerful feint attacks as we tank their resisted Earthquakes, and after setting up a little with Growth to offset their light screen, we can just take him out with a combination of feint attack and Giga Drain. Steven then sends out Armaldo, so before he can get out of hand with stacking Ancient Power boosts, we switch into Tick on a weak Aerial Ace and start blasting with Thunderbolt. The first one brings him real low, so despite Steven's best efforts to heal with full restores, we can just take him out with a few more hits. That only leaves his final team member, his Cradily, which is genuinely one of the scariest Pokemon on his team, since in our playthrough as Emerald, he was the last mon standing, but somehow managed to stack 2 Ancient Power boosts, healed up with Ingrain and Giga Drain, and then proceeded to reverse sweep our entire team. So, learning from our mistakes, I have Tick paralyze him to cut his speed, and then we can bring out Poco for the Ice Beam. The first one brings him to below half, and after he confuses us, I'm not playing around with confusion into Ancient Power boost, so I switch into Colt to tank the hit, and since we can easily tank it with our ground typing, I even have Colt fire off a Dragon Claw for good measure. It does a respectable amount of damage as our para from earlier pays off. Cradily gets fully paralyzed, so one final Dragon Claw can seal the deal, taking out Steven's final Pokemon and proving once and for all that we can indeed beat Pokemon Emerald with Wally's team, despite half the team being a little lackluster in the stat department, since they more than make up for it with their TMs and move pools. And of course, not to mention the 2 Dragon powerhouses we had in our back pocket. I think some of these fights would have been impossible if Wally took a page out of Gold's handbook and brought, I don't know, Nosepass as his last Pokemon? Hey, thanks for sticking around all the way to the end of the video. If you liked it, I would definitely recommend you check out my playthrough using Platinum's manga team. Her team was straight up just dogshit doo-doo, like she had a Cherim and a Pachirisu. But I honestly cooked up the best strategies of my life playing as her crappy team. Like, we used Foresight for the Fantina fight against her ghost types, and then later we did the same for Cynthia's Spiritomb, so our fighting type attacks could be super effective. It was definitely one of the most fun challenges I've ever done. I think if you like this video, you should check it out. Alright, see ya.